You'll be falling asleep pretty soon.
Well, I'm gonna be like Ziggy is now, but tomorrow evening.
Yeah.
So everyone, now that we know Ziggy's going to sleep, this is the beginning of episode 39, State of Exile. We got Ghazzy and LiftingNerdBro here. Do you even Ghazzy, bro? What's up, guys?
What's up? Thank you for having us.
Well,
do you?
So today we're going to be discussing a lot of things. Let me pull up the handy dandy primer here. Today we're going to be discussing the 1 month race in full detail. What our plans for the 1 month race are. What are we going to be playing hardcore, softcore? We're going for the 2020 challenges, things like that. Then we're going to be discussing all the new 2.0.4 map changes. It seems the feedback has finally made its way to GGG, and we're getting some much deserved buffs to maps. And so we're going to be discussing that. Then we're going to be talking about Shrapnel Shot, a new skill that was reviewed by Rory. A lot of good things to be discussed about that. And then the big meta shift from 1.0 to 1.3 to 2.0. Things we liked about it and things we didn't like about it, and feedback along those lines. And of course, we're going to finish it off with a Q&A. So anyone's got questions that you want any of the four of us to answer, you can go ahead and type at ZiggyD Live, and I'll gladly save them here in a document. We can go discuss it afterward. So let's kick it off. 1 month race. Who the hell is ready for this, man? The burnout is real.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take the ball and grab it. 1 month race.
What are you
It's
playing?
gonna be awesome. I'm actually going to, for the first time, play softcore for the very first time. I've always done temp league or these long races as a hardcore player. To expand my play style from the standard I used to do a year back. But now I'm playing the softcore, and I've always done Syrian Uber Syrian games as a service for the public and the community, and I'm going to do that again, but in softcore league this time as a non-summoner. I'll be most likely doing it with a Whispering Ice build. I'm not sure yet, but that's my current plan for things. Open up a services for the community, starting with regular, going into Uber.
So with you going for Whispering Ice, what will be your leveling skill until you're able to afford one? Like Glacier Cascade synergizes well with it, or Freezing Pulse, Ice Nova?
You could do the same with the whole Spell Totem Incinerator or Flame Totem together with Firestorm with leveling all the way up, because the entire build tree aligns pretty well with the type of damage nodes that you get for that as well, plus the life gain. And then you can stay every time you hit in cruel difficulty, staying in Western Forest for a few extra levels to try to get that incantation card whilst we're doing that. So it's pretty effective and rather safe to actually afford the items that you need.
I
like how you're working that divination card in there as a part of the strategy, part of the leveling strategy.
I'm
good.
not
I like
going to farm it, but it's part of the leveling strategy to make sure that I can actually get it. If I get one card, that's one fourth of the cost to get the card. I'll get the item itself and drag down.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're gonna level a little bit extra somewhere, and you might as well choose that location where you can get that divination card. That's what I want that divination card system to do. Yeah. So then buffing the drop rates recently that supports that is good stuff in my mind, because I want to see more of that. So it's good to hear you doing that.
The good thing is it's only 4 too to get it.
Sorry?
Oh, I said it's only 4 cards. What did you say? Sorry.
No, I said that when I leveled my last character to do that specific thing. Now I know I got lucky. In Cruel I got 1 card, and I leveled for I think I got like 8 or 9 levels in that area before moving on. So I rushed into Western Forest and stayed there for as long as I could, more or less, till I got bored of it, which happens really fast. And then a few more levels, and then in Merciless I got another card, and I stayed there for quite long before moving into Act 4. It's like feeling that I could go into maps already, but still in Western Forest. But then I only needed 2 cards, and the items I dropped and currency drops on that route of doing that leveling process, which is still rather efficient, because the leveling build with the Firestorm, Spell Totem, or Fire Totem, whatever you want to go with, is actually rather efficient. The higher level you get, the faster you clear the area, and you just pump it on, pump it on, pump it on. I got 2 cards last time I did it, and that's really lucky. And the time before that I got 1 card. So as long as you get 1 card, it's still going to help you actually benefit, or make it cheaper for you to get the items you need.
That's how I always felt about Celestial Justicar back when it was in Fellshrine. Even now that it's in Crypt, that's the only map I will run if I'm playing an armor build. Because it's in Crypt map now, which is one of the most useless 68 maps I always feel. Yeah. With the exception of Warbands. I know it was popular in Warbands. But like I just kept spamming that map and I ended up getting like 4. I got very lucky. I think they increased the drop rate on it for sure. So Ghazzy, are you doing the Avatar of Fire, Cold of Fire, or are you just sticking with the cold version? I'm not trolling you. I'm not trolling. It's an actual legit build, Ziggy.
It actually is, but the Avatar of Fire is the build that skyrockets the damage even further, and to be able to get that extra damage to viably and safely permit me to do Uber-Theory at a safe manner to actually put a service for the community, I'm going to be forced to do an Avatar Fire version of it. But I'll do my own version, of course. But I've been looking through a few builds on the market, and I'm going to do my own version of these. I think I got a pretty nice plan for the build.
Freaking awesome, man. Yeah, the Cold to Fire gem, because there's a lot of gems that you end up like you could still benefit of hypothermia because you're still getting the chilled ground, and then you get the extra damage from Cold to Fire. It's an actual legit build, which you don't see very often with Avatar Fire.
Yeah, I was having a chuckle because before the stream today, Zeno said there's a couple rules, and one was no Cold to Fire.
No, it's Cold to
One
Chaos.
was no summoner discussion.
Cold to Chaos.
Cold to Chaos. Okay, I'm like, we've already had both of those discussions that you banned at the start of the stream.
Sorry.
That's all. It's
Damn
all
topics.
fun. So what are you doing anyway, Ziggy, for the 1 month? What league and what are your plans?
I'm gonna play hardcore. I'm pretty sure. I'll tell you what I want to play, and then I'll tell you what I'm gonna play. What I want to play is a bow skill that doesn't exist, and it's a bow skill where you charge up a shot that's like a straight line rectangle in front of your character. That's what I want to play. I've had this idea for a skill, and it's a certain playing style which just doesn't really exist in Path of Exile. I love that sort of like a charge up, bam, sort of AoE with a ranged character. And I think a skill like that in the game would be so good. So I'm like, my head's stuck on that. So that's what I really want to play. So I'm like, what's kind of similar? I'm like, all right, I guess Ball Lightning's kind of a rectangle AoE in front of your character. So
Then Glacial Cascade, that's about it.
yeah, I played some Glacial Cascade recently. I thought I'd give Ball Lightning a bit of a go. I remember seeing in the beta that it looked pretty fun. So gonna give that a go. But not just gonna play regular Ball Lightning. Mostly I just don't want to play a mana-based spellcaster. It just feels so at the moment. Like, it just feels painful. It's not like mana, like you can make a fine mana-based build. You can even make fine Eldritch Battery builds, but it kind of reminds me of how when I recently played CI, you're just like, oh, now I have to deal with this part of CI, and now I have to deal with this part of mana builds, and now I have to deal with this. So I'm just like,
constantly a new problem you have to deal with.
Yeah, yeah. It's just,
every time I try to make a cast right now. Yeah.
It's just not a fun meta at the moment. And that's why I'm going Iron Will, Zeno. I'm going Iron Will. And
everybody goes Iron Will, man. Everybody.
Yeah. So it's not even really that hipster, but I'm going to go Iron Will and transition into Righteous Fire and heavy jewel stacking. I'm really going to try and abuse jewels with this build. So I got 7 with an additional 1 or 2 easy to grab. And I plan on stacking a lot of cast speed, maybe a little bit of knockback and stuff like that to sort of cover what I see as the weaknesses of Iron Will builds, a lack of cast speed, to make a pretty zippy but also tanky character. Because I like beefy characters. I like characters with lots of armor and stuff like that, but they always feel too slow, too sluggish to me. So I want to try and make one that actually turns out to be fast. So gonna dump all my currency into jewels, make a really jewel heavy Iron Will Righteous Fire Ball Lightning character. So it should be interesting, hopefully. Hopefully, should be interesting.
I mean, I'm backing you up because when I'm playing this league, I'm going hardcore. And if you think about a standard caster, especially a mana-based caster, you're not going to get 200% life. And when you have 9 different leagues going on at once that are going to kill you, Invasion plus Tempest Ghost inside of them.
Yeah.
Not Tempest, Torment Ghost inside of them. I mean, it's just going to be chaotic. So I'm going Searing Bond, and I've never played the skill. I was always like anti-Searing Bond when it was meta. So Pox is playing a pure fire build.
It's fun, man. It's fun.
Are you serious?
Trust me. It's fun. I played Searing Bond right when it first came out. No one wanted to play that shit. That was when the beams stacked, admittedly, so it was a little different. But it's actually kind of fun. You get like this Spider-Man web slinging going through maps where you like chuck the totem forwards, then you web sling to the next totem and to the next totem. It's actually pretty fun, man. I like it. It's a very different play style, if nothing else, because it's very different to every other sort of build you'll have ever played.
I'm going with the approach. So Pox is going Incinerate Totems, and I'm going Dual Curse. So I'll be like obviously more support because he's going to do more damage. But with Searing Bond, I'm going to go EE. I'm going to use Ice Nova Trap, and that will proc the EE, and Searing Bond doesn't proc that, and then Pox gets all the extra damage. And then on top of that, Hidden Potential was what really carried Poison Arrow this league. Searing Bond has all of like 4 support gems that work with it. Empower, increase burning damage, increase item rarity, and Culling Strikes, increase damage. Obviously, I'm not going to use the latter 2. I'm just going to use freaking Empower and increase burning damage and a +3 Scepter, and then go with the Hidden Potential type way, just like Poison Arrow works, and to get a lot of damage. And there's actually guides out there with over 100k DPS Searing Bond, and I was blown away. Like, how did I not think of hidden potential
Yeah.
working the same way for this as poison?
That's a
arrow?
really cool idea. I hadn't thought of that either.
So I'm going to be,
Pretty
throwing out the EE trap, curse. Pox will do the damage, and then they'll have like no fire resistance whatsoever. And then 272% life tree because Searing Bond needs pretty much nothing other than fire damage, elemental damage, and burning damage. So that's my plan, just to live. I just want to live and get the challenges done in hardcore. What are you up to, Nerd Bro? Oh, what was that, Ghazzy?
I had a question for C earlier, but it brings it a little bit topic with the totem play style. You were talking about doing ball lightning build, and you were talking about totem build, and I was thinking about asking Ziggy if you'd consider doing a mix of totem with ball lightning. I saw a build doing Sire of Shards with ball lightning, and it looked brutal for the playstyle. And this there was a video I saw on YouTube. I can't remember who made it. But if you consider doing that, because that looked really beast with the terms of clear speed. You threw out 2 totems in a room, you just ran to the next one. Everything died in that room so fast. With that
I like it from a build perspective, but maybe not from the playstyle perspective of what I wanted to play this time around, just like from the feeling of the character. But yeah, I like that from the playstyle perspective. I even like the idea of multiple projectiles on ball lightning now, that it's actually a bit more feasible, and it allows you to build characters that don't scale AoE. And I almost considered going for it on my character, but I didn't want to rock the extra green support gem. That's what it came down to in the end. But yeah, I like that. I like the idea of that. I like the idea of that. I think it'd be pretty good.
Yeah, that's all we want to know. Lifting, what have you been doing this? What's your plan for the 1 month?
I usually don't plan my builds until like 2 hours before the race. I always stress out during that point in time. So, but I think I've come up with I either want to do elemental split arrow, or I want to do something that I've done before with decent success, a dual arc totem build, blood magic. So use Clear Mind, use. And I want to use the Agnorod East, I believe it's called, the Lightning Staff.
Which one? The shock duration one?
It will be the shock duration one.
The South is pretty insane too, because I'm playing a lightning build right now, and South gives you +5 max lightning res, which is
that's
nuts.
That's pretty sick, yeah.
But either or is good,
well.
honestly.
Yeah. I kind of want to go with that, and then the typical setup with Spell Totem Arc, faster casting, Empower Lightning Pen, and then of course Iron Will, because like you guys, I don't know if you hate it like I do, but I really don't like the caster defenses, typical caster defenses. So I'm also going armor and strength based. And then for additional defenses, I'll be using Arctic Armor, and I'll reserve that on my life because I'll be getting Mortal Conviction anyway. So the amount of damage it mitigates is so much more efficient than the small amount of life you lose at high level maps, I believe. And then I've considered using Call of the Brotherhood. I'm not entirely sure, and the cool thing is, in case you guys know what it is, but you guys who are watching, if you don't know what it is, it makes it so that your spells have a 100% chance to shock against frozen enemies, and 50% of your lightning damage is converted to cold damage. I'm not sure if I want to do that, but it could be fun. It also increases lightning damage. And my main challenge with this build will be to get enough damage on the arc totems. So I may want to, use every little bit I can to get the damage.
Are you planning on crit or non-crit?
And non-crit.
So non-crit, Agnorod East would be better than South, just because you need that shock duration, or you're not going to shock.
Yeah.
Despite them being frozen, you need that shock duration. So you're probably going to have to pick up static blows, and then the right side of that lightning wheel. You'll be fine at that point.
Yeah, I think it would be okay. I don't know what to expect entirely. I've used dual arc totems before with good success, but never higher than 76 maps or something like that. So we'll see. But I want to ask you guys, because I was just writing this down as we got into the podcast. Are you thinking any other uniques that comes to mind that would be beneficial for such an arc totem build here?
What's it called? Restless Ward. If you want to keep up your frenzy charges, you can use the Dodre's Elixir, and then you could keep up your frenzy charges for 20 seconds. And you need those multipliers.
Yeah,
as well. If you're running EB, which works well with totems, the Zealot's Oath, the endurance charges will give you more regen. That's
I'll not be running EB. I'll be running.
I think he wants to. I think he wants to dodge all of that, like us.
Yeah, I don't want to go through that part of the tree.
And then another thing to consider, because Arc Totems lack a lot of single target, because you could still use traps. Go Bear Trap, Physical Lightning, Added Lightning, like I was using, and that will chunk bosses.
Yeah, that's actually that's.
I thought you were going to say like Trap Val Stormcall, but that's a pretty good idea too.
Yeah,
that's what I'm using, and it solved all my single target problems for Lightning Trap and Shock Nova Trap.
I'll keep that in mind. I'll write that down. Thank you. And that's kind of what I'll be going with, or the Elemental Split Arrow, but that's it for now. And then I'll, of course, make sure to use... I can't decide if it's going to be the Flame Golem or Chaos Golem. It depends on whether or not I need damage or survivability. So, yeah.
I didn't really feel that the Chaos Golem is actually giving you noticeable mitigation, because it's just on physical damage, and I feel that most of my rips are coming from elemental-oriented damage.
Really?
I don't know, man. With the amount of times I survive with like sub 100 health in Path of Exile, I feel like every little thing like that makes a difference.
Yeah. I always feel though. I die to physical damage right now, and not to elemental damage for sure.
The strongest mitigation for in terms of physical attacks in this game is just the flat percentage-based reductions, like the Endurance Charge, Soul Steel, Chaos Golem. They work so well with a Granite. It's crazy.
Yeah, the synergy is real.
If you can keep up a Granite, like, you should be able to keep up a Granite, no problem with that build. And then Chaos Golem's just fine. But Fire Golem works as well.
Yeah. I guess. We'll see. We'll see. I'll be getting around 200% increased maximum life, so I should be fairly tanky, especially with the Totem build. So.
And you're going to do Hardcore, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Hey, if you need a group, let me know. Let me know, any of you guys.
We can do that. Sure.
So it looks like pretty well and surely this is going to be Path of Iron Will, or at least Path of non-mana based casters.
Totems.
Path of Totems. Path of Cyclone.
Totems are always
Path
good.
of non-mana based casters.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
I miss the old Octogama. But we'll talk about that later.
I guess it's a sign of the kind of like the greater feelings towards the caster meta than at the moment. And I mean, I feel like you definitely can make it work, but in a 1 month, 1 months tend to have the effect of really highlighting some of the stuff that you can kind of work around long term, but is kind of in an awkward state at the moment, because people just steer way clear of anything that's kind of awkward in a 1 month race for the most part. So you can definitely make mana work, and mana-based casters work just fine, and you can make some excellent builds with it, but it's just awkward enough now that in a 1 month you're like, everyone's like, nope.
Like, I love Mill's Inclination, can't race with it, you know? And plus, this race this will be the rippiest to-date race that GG's ever released, especially the first 3 days when you have nothing.
Yeah,
you're trolling around.
With invasion bosses.
Yeah, man.
I hope they're just as overpowered as they were when Invasion released.
You know, I feel when it comes to the race perspective, I feel that the build I'm going for might actually be an enjoyable build, especially if you're doing a party race and you have one guy just pumping for that extra experience gain, because of the build actually using a double Brandis thing that's giving you increased percentage gain of experience. So I think that actually is a viable choice when partying up for the actual race of going to 100.
What's the mod you guys fear the most in the upcoming leagues?
Torment paired with Invasion.
Torment paired with Invasion. Yeah.
Ghosted Invasion bosses I'm terrified
Should be pretty good.
Or Ghosted Beyond bosses as well.
Yeah.
But the thing with the last Flashback was we only had 3 leagues at any given time, and then it was all of them. But this time it's 4. It's 4 and then Mayhem. And it seems that they made it a lot harder. And I mean, the last Flashback race was already really hard, but this one seems to be like over the top hard.
Yeah. I really like the idea of having, one day every week where it's just all mods, except one. I like that. So we get to feel it all through the entire league. But it still seems like, though, that they are adding an additional mod at the end of the league instead of having it be as hard as possible in the beginning, which I remember you guys talked about on a previous podcast. You would rather have.
I think I want to say that for this 1 month league, I think they've really freaking nailed it. This
I like this
Warbands, Invasion, Nemesis, Domination for the start is freaking excellent. and the way they've divided it all up is freaking excellent. And then this this Alienware giveaway for first to 100 is freaking excellent. I love it all, man, because that's gonna be great to watch the the 2 or 3 people that might be closing in on 100 and them duking it out and taking risks on like the risky times. Because I mean, when do you think that'll happen in the when do you think they'll be getting close to that 100 in the league? It could be on one of the all league mods, I reckon. There's a good chance of it.
I think they may be trolling us a bit here by saying, the first to reach level 100 or the top player by experience with the map changes to experience requirements. This may be, hey, go for it, guys. See if you can actually reach level 100. And
yeah, that's kicking in time for this, isn't it?
Yeah. So maybe this will be a way of showing us that you don't just reach level 100 anymore.
This is also where they're testing the new map experience changes too. Something to remember. In 2.0.4, they're testing all the map changes that we're going to be messing around with. So the experience penalty will be in effect.
I think that did they mention any experience penalty to the Itsiri and Ubertsiri, because they don't actually have a tier.
If you want to go and do those, I mean, go for it. But I don't think that's like. I guess maybe the trash people have farmed the trash before in the past, so I'll give you that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty good XP, isn't it?
Because we know that top streamers that are racing usually, for the most part, do get supported by the community and stuff like that. That's just a given fact, I'm afraid. People
really?
To some degree, they are. And from racers' point of view, then you have group races as well. Like, people are going for the actual rewards and having a group of people supporting a guy. Like, okay, we go for this goal now. That guy's going to go for the top. And they're supporting him to reach that goal, and you just pump it up. And we've seen it before, and it's going to happen with people actually helping each other, making leveling groups. But of course, if someone dies, there's always someone else in that group continuing that leveling race. So especially in hardcore, at least. But it all depends on group to group. But if you have a group of people being able to get these type of maps, such as Siri or Ubertsiri maps, just get this going and make sure that I can continuously farm these type of trash, that could be really good. But I'm not sure if they actually did give a penalty for the experience gain in the Siri maps or not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. If not, then we might see a little bit of a different meta for farming up there. I don't know, maybe.
Well, it's Siri is normally level 70, and they said they're starting at 77. And 77 maps now give 76.9% experience, as if the mob was 76.9 rather than 77, which is barely anything. So it's, I mean, you really, what's Ubertsiri, 80?
80, yeah.
Yeah, 80. So, yeah, you would probably see the experience drop off there. But we'll see. We don't know.
It should, since it is a map, per se. Just activated differently. I'm assuming
I imagine it would. I
and
imagine it would too.
Up's going all the way to level 82, so again, Ubertsiri is not the best way of gaining experience. It should logically be the level 82 maps, but what I liked about the changes to the maps was the fact that you could get there was the importance behind having the highest level map just dropped, and due to the whole map sustainability, you could actually be participating in racing without getting, we have to do 82 map rotations or not, or ignore the whole racing point. So we're at the position where people could possibly race with go competitive in the race by pushing through 78 to 80 maps as well. And I like that point of view. It reduces the whole trading requirements of actually being high-end racing in this.
No, I agree. Something to think about too is like when. All right, so Duresso. Usually, the last time you fight Duresso is Duresso and Cruel, and most people like maybe the top 1% fight him in an 82 map, right? So after Cruel, you're like, I'm done, because there's really no need to do him in Merciless unless you want the challenge of Merciless Malachi. So while you're leveling up, or let's say you die and you want to keep leveling up, and you're in Onslaught League. Onslaught mods with Duresso. Something we haven't thought about. Duresso already gets insane attack speed steroids. His swords benefit from it as well. Now you're fighting with him with Onslaught. These are things that we have to think about that you're not used to. Because you don't really fight Turbo Duresso in a map. You're like, hell no, I'm not running that. But you have no choice in this race. Yeah. Things like that are what going to get you killed. Tempest League, I died to him in Enlarging Tempest. The last 25% he doesn't lose his Goku buff. And you just Shrek me. Boom, done. Enlarging Tempest. That with Onslaught, like, have fun, you're gonna die. So there's gonna be a lot of perfect storm type scenarios you're not used to because you stop fighting these bosses in Cruel and never see them again until 82 maps. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that works out.
I'm very hyped for it. It should have a messy, chaotic gameplay. I'm gonna love it.
Oh yeah.
There aren't too many mods here in the beginning, though, of the league that will significantly slow you down when it comes to leveling, I feel. You have to be careful, but, I mean, Invasion, Nemesis, and Domination, we can run from a lot of that.
Yeah, Beyond is only really bad in the first couple days, and that doesn't kick in until day 5, so you'll be over the hump by then. Invasion is the only one that's really going to slow you down. Warbands is basically a buff to your leveling speed.
Yeah,
it's like a ton of extra loot.
Rampage too.
Yeah.
And Rampage? What? Rampage isn't there.
Well, Rampage at some point will be there, and Rampage will actually help you. One of the few League mods that will actually help you.
Yeah. I mean, Domination's a help too. It's basically just free XP. Tons of XP. So it's only really Invasion and Nemesis that slow you down day 1 to 4.
Oh yeah, day 1 to 4, yeah, absolutely. Well, we got Invaders too, man. Can't wait. But you can always skip Invasion, guys, until you get Bear Trap Leaf Slam. Can't wait to see him again.
Can't wait for the Ghosted Invasion bosses or Ghosted Beyond bosses. Is gonna be so rippy.
Yeah, Beyond boss is just kind of like just popping up as you're trying to kill a ghost or chasing a ghost through things. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be good. It's like just so many like surprise Jack-in-the-Box moments.
The Zana map mods are going to be complete cancer. They're already annoying, and then with all of that other stuff, you know, like when Zana gives you quests like Sea Witches Beyond, like good luck during every single thing on top of that, except for warbands. You know, have fun.
Should be fun, man. I can't wait.
It's good experience. You can survive though. But on the other hand, experience-wise, when it comes to these certain map mods, especially Beyond is a really nice mod when it comes to gaining extra experience, gaining extra potential possibilities of dropping maps.
No, they don't give maps.
Are going to roll maps completely differently. At least if I were to race competitively, I wouldn't roll very hard map on these type of map mods going on from the league mods. If Beyond was there, I'd probably just roll easy blue mod, maybe reel it with chisels, of course, and throw it in, and just leech off the experience gain and the map drops from the extra things happening from the league mod instead. And I think that's going to have a big impact on how racers competitively will actually roll their maps.
So, for a quick PSA, everyone out there, Friday, it's starting, I believe it's 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you guys want to say what time zone you're in, what time the race starts.
Yeah, I believe it's 8 o'clock evening in Europe, Central European.
Oh, really?
European
so it might be 2 p.m. my time then.
All I know is that it was starting on the perfect day for me. I'm going to EB Expo, and the day that I get back was going to be the start of it, and then they moved it back one day, so I'm missing day 1. Because I'll be at EB Expo here in Australia.
Just like last time, you missed like the first 4 days. Or no, you missed the weekend. You missed the Mayhem mod when you went to California.
Yeah.
That just sucks so much. It's definitely...
The first day is always the most fun, but...
Absolutely.
At least I'm still in that first 1 to 4 day. Day 2 is... It's not the worst. It'll be okay. I'll start a day late.
I'm just so happy for us Europeans. We don't have to actually start the race in 2 in the morning now, so... Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's about time.
We appreciate that. Yeah.
Just streaming, I feel there's more Europeans in my channel than there are Americans and Australians and whatnot. So you gotta hook up that European love.
Australians is a rare breed in my chat as well. But
I got a lot of Scandinavians and East Coast state people.
Lots of Jersey Shores.
So how do you guys feel about the challenges for this 1 month then, since we haven't talked about that at all yet? That's kind of like a big part of it.
I'm a little confused by them. Let me ask you, so I get this right. When it says full clear the fetid pool, that's one of the challenges. How does that work to earn pieces of the golden Saracen? How does that work?
There's like 20 challenges, and it's like every 5 gives you one of the pieces, starting with the boots, the gloves, the chest, and the helmet's the last piece. So you need to complete like 20 or something to get the helmet. If my math is correct.
Makes sense. Okay. Otherwise, not that epic of a challenge, I'd say. Hey, here's your helmet. Good job clearing the fetid pool.
No, it's every 5. It seems most of the challenges, like, they're either time gated because you have to wait for that league mod to even appear, But you know, some of them, like there's one to kill. What's her name? The Exile, Ignifenix. So it's like you can find her, but during Anarchy it'll be easier to find her. You know, things like that where you can find them. But then there's some that are specific to like Tormented Ghosts or you know, other past leagues, Warbands leaders.
You can always mod any of the ones so that none of them are like super hard gated, time gated. I don't think there's someone put a chart up on Reddit that was like a kind of like a tips thing. A lot of them were made easier if you do them at a certain time, or more likely to appear and such. But you can mod your way to victory on most of them.
I think all but like 3 are pretty damn easy. There's like 3 that are a little tricky. Like
it's getting the helmet that is just that last couple there for the helmet is the tough part. So the helmet will be a bit of an achievement, especially for a lot of players that have got in and done some higher level maps but haven't really ever gone too hard on it. It's going to be a little tricky to get in. Like for example, the tier 8 or higher with Onslaught will be a little tricky maybe.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's something cool. Like I think it's well positioned though. Like it's in a 1 month scenario. It's a good thing for people to aim for. This time around, I was a little disappointed that they didn't do separate rewards for hardcore and softcore because I liked last time that it got people trying on either league. But with this one, I see kind of what they're doing. They're trying to get some players that play semi seriously to casually getting in and kind of like pushing for that next one with the way they've sort of set out these challenges. So I quite like that.
Honestly, I don't really care the way how the Golden Seraph skin looks. Does anyone else here agree with me?
I don't like what
I just want it to be exclusive.
Exactly. It's exclusive, but it's like kind of looks like the original. And we already got Seraph skins like, what, 8 months ago, 7 months ago? I'd like to see like another reskin set that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
Like arcade set or something.
Yeah, I'd like to see reskins of other sets, but I can understand why they went with the Elite skin again, because it's kind of already been somewhat devalued by giving out free MTXs of it in the past.
Yeah.
So if they start doing it of every other set, then that starts to devalue and eat into their profits on other ones. But I think it's pretty cool. It goes nicely with the Seraph Spectral Throw. Not that Spectral Throw is worth
Nobody
playing.
uses that anymore, so...
Castle and Crypt builds, bro.
Yeah, I guess.
With the pancake effect.
I think pets are something that has many people. I know many people love buying MTX. I started when I could afford buying MTX. I did it just to support the game. Besides the stash tabs. And then pets. I bought a cheap pet just to have one. It was fun. But I think that many people are not buying these insanely expensive pets because it's so much money. But I'm not sure. I don't have the statistics, of course. I think it would be pretty nice to have very unique or very niche, unique pets being as MTX is being released on the league. What's it called? Challenges. If you finish all of them, or like the hardest is to get actually really nice niche pet, because that actually is something that is not affecting your gear looks. It doesn't devalue the current things that are out there, and people could actually strive to get one of those, because if you want to buy a Scorpion, for example, that's a lot of points to buy a Scorpion, for example.
Yeah, that could be that would definitely be exclusive pets. I can see the idea.
I don't know if I like the idea of pets so much. It's a thing you can only ever have one out at a time. I mean, you can put it in your hideout, I suppose, so that kind of helps it. They do make for a nice trophy, but it's not also something that can be broken down into multiple pieces, like this can. So you can have that kind of like, you get like a casual, you get your boots and your gloves if you're like a casual player.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can still earn something.
That's true.
Allowing you to have 2 pets out, that would be awesome.
They did have like a black Seraph skin at one point in time floating around. Like, I think it was mentioned in the original picture, or there was a thread about it I was reading. There was like a black Seraph skin that looked edgy, straight from Hot Topic, and I would have loved to wear it. I know Ghazzy would have wore it. I mean...
Exactly.
It looks cool though. It looks cool. Once in a while, it'd be nice to have like a hipster edgy set, man. Like we got that like Demon King set, but that's only for like big heavy armors, But the witch, she would look sweet in the black Seraph skin. I don't know why that one went poof.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, and I just want to say there was a few people in my chat not so long ago talking about they were discouraged because of some of the challenges, because they said, I have never even seen a Divine Shrine or something like that, and they felt like I will never be able to complete this challenge. To you guys who think like that, I can tell you that in these leagues, people help each other out. People sell divine shrines. People will have groups or channels where you can search for these together. So this is probably going to be one of your least concerns in these challenge leagues, as long as you make sure to look out for it, through the beginning. What channel is it that people usually share these?
720?
820, I believe. It was the Masters, because last time there was a lot of Master type challenges. People were using Global 820.
Yeah.
But usually there'll be like a Reddit thread or a forum post. Hey, use Global blah blah blah, and people will do it for free. People will really help out for free.
Or trade chat. Sell them.
Yeah. Like everyone spamming back in the days before the pre-nerf of Untainted Paradise. One exalted slot for a group there.
1000% untainted.
Yeah, it's insane.
And even if someone doesn't do it for free, I mean, like paying 3 chaos to get your divine shrine out of the way is whatever. 3 chaos, it's done, it's over with.
Yeah. Over the course of the 1 month, it's not hard to get people to help you with that, especially because this one does include domination, which means more chances for it to spawn.
Yeah.
At various times.
So what I want to ask you guys, what do you usually do in a challenge league like this? This is in 1 month. Are you planning on just playing that single character for the entire month, or do you plan on re-rolling? How are you going to go about this?
I think in the 1 month, it's really the sort of league that you want to spend a lot of time on one character.
Yeah. For me, it kind of motivates me to stay on the same character as well. I kind of like it. Usually, I'm all over the place with creating characters in the other leagues, but.
In other leagues, I might even re-roll, like, just a couple of weeks in, I'll make, like, a character that's just kind of to farm currency for another character, but in a 1 month, you generally pick something that can farm for itself and then can build itself over the course of 1 month, so something that has a bit of long-term potential as well as being good right off the bat. Yeah, so it is a bit of a different, interesting, it promotes kind of, like, you to check out different styles of builds and different ways of starting the league to how you normally would.
You know, my whole plan for the 1 month is oriented around the Syrian Uber tier services, so I will be sticking to one character to make sure I can go into Uber, and when I'm into Uber, I'm pretty sure the community will not let me go to another character, because I'll be busy with the Uber services.
Yeah.
How fast do you plan on, maybe you answered this, Ghazzy, but I didn't hear it, but how fast do you plan on being able to kill Uber?
Oh,
faster than everyone else?
The problem is if I actually had time off from work, if I would take a week off, I'd be doing it in about 1.5 weeks or 2 weeks or something. It really is that easy. When it comes to soft workers, you don't have to worry about the death. And you can actually try it out, and you're fine with dying a few times. So 1 week, 1.5 maybe to do it in Uber, but I'm not free from work, I have a tight schedule. So I don't know how long it's going to take.
How much of a stepping stone do you feel like there is from being able to do at Siri fast in the league to going to Uber at Siri?
Sorry?
How much of a stepping stone is that from early on farming, trying to get to at Siri as fast as possible and then going to Uber at Siri? How much of a challenge is that?
Going to Siri is actually really easy with recent changes to 2.0. More builds are available to do it and stuff like that. So going to Siri itself is actually really easy, and the level requirement, in my point of view, is dropped at about 8 to 10 levels sooner now than you could do before. So it's actually really fast going up that you can more or less do it Siri before you start doing proper maps. And when I say proper, I say 74, 75 plus. You know, just level quickly with those easy maps and then into it Siri directly. Yeah. But Uber Siri is she is a challenge for even experienced players. And I'll be doing it as a new type of class as well. I've never done it Siri as a non-summoner, so that's going to be new for me as well. But I know Trio Boss is the hardest one. At Siri Fight Yourself, that's going to be a cakewalk, even on Uber. But Trio Boss in Uber, it's... just imagine all the shittiest things you can think of in the entire universe smacked into one room. That's Trio Boss for you in Uber.
Yeah. How hard is it, Siri, with things like the Onslaught buff? Turbo and things like that?
And that's going to be some interesting flame cast.
Builds handle it differently. SRS would kill Uber Trio in about 6.5 to 7 seconds. So if they're speed or not, doesn't matter. They will die. Just have the gear for doing it. But other builds that actually needs to survive them, that's going to be a little bit harder for those builds.
Yeah.
So it depends on how you actually initiate the fight. And we have the tanky builds going with the Mortal Call for 500 minutes of immunity. Then those builds are not going to have a problem with it, no matter how buff they are. But
Mortal Call doesn't exist anymore, bro.
Yeah.
Well, efficiently, to be honest.
So, I think with all that being said, I think it's time to go on. We've been spending 40 minutes. That's how hyped we are. We're ready to get rid of this burnout and do some 1 month racing. So let's talk about the new map changes. Ziggy, would you like to kick off the 2.0.4 map changes?
Yeah, sure thing. So there's some like little quality of life changes and stuff like that they mentioned with ground effects and things. But the main things are the changes to map difficulties getting into the start of maps. So like the actual difficulty of content. They mentioned readjusting Act 4 mobs in particular, as well as making some, they didn't mention specifically what, but some lower map tier content easier. So curious to know what you guys think about that. And then there is a new tiers system rather than map levels, so rebranding of maps essentially, and also changing of symbol colors kind of for those different tier categories. And then the halving of XP in the highest tier of maps. So I guess we'll start with the map difficulty changes. What do you guys think about the retuning of Act 4 mobs and the retuning of some difficult content in low-level maps? Especially that. I don't know, I've always felt like low-level maps are at the easiest to get into point ever. I didn't really notice any difficult content in low-level maps. What do you think they might be talking about there?
I was surprised to hear that as well. I mean, right now,
some bosses
maps are easier. Yeah, maybe it could be the boss, but then again...
There's a couple bosses, maybe. Like, especially maybe from some of the new Act 4 tile sets and stuff in the low tier.
Yeah.
Some of those guys are kind of nasty.
Honestly, like, if you think about normal and cruel difficulty, when you do Act 1 through 3, it's pretty much a cakewalk. You get to 4, and the difficulty goes up so much. No, it is normal difficulty. It's still fairly easy. But you'll still notice some monsters hitting you a lot harder than you're used to. And in cruel, even more so. So, I mean... better late than never kind of thing. Like Act 4 monsters, when in beta first came out, they felt really, really weak, and then I think they just made them way too strong. You know, when you're fighting a corrupting blood Rakango, your life feels like it's going to disappear in any second. So there are some things that definitely need to be adjusted. In regards to the low-level maps, for the most part, I didn't really have any problems because they made low-level maps easy by changing the map mod roles.
Yeah, definitely.
So it might have been a little bit overkill. But I can understand they want mapping to be something that more people can get into, and not, once you get to the mid-tier and high-tier maps, it's something that only the better players can experience. I'm alright with that, too.
Mm-hmm. I just feel like maps, I mean, the low-level maps as they are now, even before they get even weaker, is much easier than some of the Act 4 content.
I mean, Cruel Act 4 is probably harder than 68 maps. It just tier 1 maps.
It seems like it's a weird progression to me. I don't really like how it scales into the early level maps. I feel like there should be a distinguishable change in difficulty when you head into maps. I would prefer that, while still leaving it available for less skilled players or new players.
Yeah, I guess they want like a gradual ramp up into the map system, but I felt like it already had that. So the only thing I can think of is that some of those new map bosses, like Night Vein and all that, some of those guys are pretty nasty. Yeah,
Pit Boss in the 68 is like no
so
joke.
I think that's probably what they're referring to is just those bosses, because those are the only things that are like way outside of the lower map tiers. Like you'll judge your kind of like character's performance by running like 5 consecutive low-level maps, and you'll be like, all right, cool, and you go into map boss in for one of the Act 4 maps and just get absolutely
exactly.
And so that's probably what they're talking about, I imagine. So the next thing then is the map symbol colors and map tiers. So this is essentially a marketing push. The marketing department's got together for map system, and they've thought, maps are getting old. We're not meshing well with the children, right? Basically, the Old Spice treatment. They needed to completely overhaul the branding. So maps have been given 3 different colors: white for low tier maps, yellow for mid-tier maps, and red for higher-tier maps. And then rather than being called map levels, they're now called tiers. So 68, for example, is tier 1 all the way up to tier 15. So what do you guys think about these two changes, the rebranding efforts of maps?
What do you think, Ghazzy?
I think that it looks better, but I mean, it's all going to be the same thing. It's just renaming it, in my point of view. That's what I see. But the difficulty change, I like that. I like the experience change to it. But when it comes to the tiers and the symbol colors, it's just, I think it makes it easier for them to actually, set what's actually going to be when it comes to the difficulties on tiers rather than on the levels. But honestly, it's just a new name of leveling them, taking a map level. That's just my point of view. I think it's easier for them to work around the new system. But the map tiers is going to be levels for us anyway to place it. That's my point of view.
I think they are mainly doing it, as they also said in the post, because a lot of people are confused about the whole idea that if I am level 75, then why am I not doing level 75 maps? And now that you have a tier system instead, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm level 75, I have to do tier 75.
I'm entitled to 75 maps.
Yeah, exactly. And from that perspective, it makes more sense. So.
Yeah, and I think it distinguishes it better as an end-game content, rather than it just being like a progression of regular zones, when maps are very different to regular zones. Like the tiers, as you move up the tiers, the mods change, and these now change with the colors. You're getting into the yellow and then into the red. Your shit's getting legit now, and I think that it might seem pointless, and I notice everyone in chat's kind of like, it's just renaming it, nothing changes. But the psychological impact of such a thing, it can be quite profound, and I think it will probably have after a little while, have a pretty good impact on the way people look at maps. So I think it's a pretty excellent and well executed rebranding, actually, from a marketing standpoint.
There is one thing to be said about this. Now, there's a couple of discussion and theories going around out there with this new tier map system. Right now, Zana can give you, a high-level tropical island, a 78 tropical island, for example. Now, could they possibly be doing that with this new tier system? If you drop a tier 7 map and it's Trop Island, and then you have a tier 1 Trop Island, they're different now. The only thing to be said is, core Malachi. Like, core Malachi is the be-all, end-all. Maybe if they were to introduce this into the core of the game, no pun intended, they could keep core at a tier 15 map and make some that are, that will not change tiers. There's a lot of theory going on about that, too, and I actually would love that. This has been something that's been discussed for the past year on this podcast. Like, let maps drop whenever, because right now when you get to level 74 maps, you got Jungle Valley is like one of the only maps you can actually stand in there, but the boss still sucks. Then you have Waste Pool, and everything else is kind of like awful. Torture Chamber, Labyrinth, which is now Terraces. I don't know. What do you guys think? Did any of you listen to what I said? Anyone? Please. Not in small.
I listened.
You did.
I listened. I'm not sure I understood it correctly, so I don't want to comment on it and make a fool out of myself. So I'll leave that to you guys.
And we're lifting on this one.
Yeah.
Okay, let me say this again. Zana could give us higher level maps as it is, okay?
Yeah.
What if the tier system was being put in place so that maybe you can have a tier 7 Trop Island drop instead of a tier 1? You get where I'm going with this?
You're talking about the old idea of having maps be any level. Yeah, I've said in the past I really want that system. The idea that I think it would be good if maps could scale upwards but not downwards, so that your tropical island can be scaled up, but your higher tier maps stay your higher tier maps.
Yeah,
I think that's what I'd like to see.
I hate all three of you. For
I like the idea of it not being able to scale down. Poor Malachi being a tier 1 would be hilarious from Sana, but either let mid-tier maps be able to scale down to a certain level but not below, to make sure the higher level maps are kept at a dangerous level. But certain higher level maps, like for now 80 plus, should be kept at their higher tiers. I like the idea of that.
So do you guys think that now that they have the white, yellow, and red color, with red being the most dangerous, do you think it's based entirely on the bosses in there, or the monsters that usually spawn?
No, I'm pretty sure that's the division of map mods, how the map mod transition happens. So there's 3 different tiers of map mods, how they start changing. So the white ones indicate the easy, low tier map mods, then the yellow ones, the mid ones, and then the red ones, the everything goes map mods.
You're in a yellow map, so now curses can start showing up. Or 40% less regen opposed to 20, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense, yeah. Makes sense.
Which is a much more intuitive thing for new people approaching mapping, and even experienced people to know where, just remember where that change happens. And it's also just nice for sorting out your stashes as well.
At first, when I saw the tier thing, I was like, these tiers are going to do nothing. If you've been playing this game for a while, if you've already memorized the old maps, you're going to see Labyrinth drop or terraces. I keep saying that. And you're going to know it's 74 monster level, so it being a tier whatever will have no effect on you whatsoever.
It won't have a big impact on the long-term players that have been mapping for a long time, but it has a bigger impact on the people that have not been doing it for so long or are coming into mapping. So it's, I mean, sure, if they had done this from the start, then that would make sense, but this is in relation to other changes that they've made too, and, better late than never to sort of improve and make a system more intuitive. There's always going to be new people moving into mapping, and this system will sort of slowly start to shift things up.
Yeah, true.
So, now if you guys are unaware, this 1 month they will be testing all these new map things. So I think this is like a perfect get-go, because, before in beta, there was a lot of feedback that was being presented, and we didn't really get it all fixed before the game went live. And then now they're kind of like, they're really, really listening to us and finally nerfing map experience in the higher end maps and giving us more map drops. Because, I mean, balancing the game around 2 people is pretty silly, or 5 people, whatever. And it seems that now maps are finally going to be in the good spot. And at least they're testing it before the next 3-month league. We get to see all these map changes before the next 3-month league.
Yeah, 1 month's an excellent test for that, which is excellent.
And we've never really seen that before with a 1 month. So now it seems that 1 months are like more than just a fun league in between.
It's a bit like a mini beta, isn't it, for them to try out some kind of like bigger changes like that. So I hope they do. I hope that's what they are thinking, Zeno. That's not just a coincidence.
And I hope they keep doing this in the future too, because 1 month leagues are a good way to prevent burnout, especially when it's not a hybrid league. Like, we just played them for 3 months. I'm so happy they listened to the community and gave us complete ruckus chaos. I love that stuff.
I feel like, though, that the game feels like it has been in beta since it's released with Act 4. I feel like the game has felt incomplete for a long time, I feel, and I feel that with the continuous updates we've been getting over and over is, all these kinds of solutions to very, how do I say this? It basically feels like they're patching up the game with every update up until now, I feel. It's
evident that the closed beta they didn't finish. It's evident that Act 4 was still pretty beta when it came live. I mean, it's pretty obvious they didn't have enough time. And I don't think they've ever admitted to, we kind of screwed the pooch on this one. The community's pretty smart to realize that too.
Yeah, to me it felt more like the actual beta was an alpha, and now we have been in beta for a long time.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's the nature of constant development games these days, though, isn't it?
I'm still waiting for Siri bugs that I reported and are reporting at least once a month since 2 years back. Come on, I was waiting. I thought the awakening was.
No one plays at ZeriGazzy. No one Ghazzy. No one cares.
Like, there's changes that's been happening to the game has allowed more people to go into it. Zero, and even more people are doing Uber. More builds are viable to do this. Come on, can you please fix those things? Invisible spells, minions not getting grace period.
Man.
Just fix it, please. That's the only thing I'm annoyed with. But I haven't really felt that we've still been in beta. I just feel that, Act 4 has been, that's been annoying. I just feel that the bigger change coming up now with about changes and stuff like that is not really part of what should have been released in the Awakening. I'm happy with it. It's just the Act 4 being a little bit in the start, but I just feel that certain bug fixes that many people have been reporting for a long time should actually be taken serious, because it's really annoying, and now more people are experiencing them. I mean, how many people has to experience it before it's fixed? That's my only problem with it.
I would say the day that everyone who asks if a build is at Zeri viable does at Zeri, that'll be the day they fix the bugs. So basically the entire community. That's all it's going to take, Ghazzy, and then we'll be good.
Let's work into meta discussion. All right, so this section I want to be all 4 of us speak your mind. Speak your mind, don't hold back. So what we're going to be doing during this meta discussion, saying, instead of this build is popular, we're going to discuss 1.3 versus 2.0, okay? So we're going to bring up, like, for instance, I'll bring up Eldritch Battery. At 1.3, it was, like, godly. 2.0, you pretty much need Zelto to make it work. You're going to tell me if you like the change, if you don't, and why you do. You know, if you prefer old or new. So let's kick it off. Eldritch Battery. ZiggyD, you've had a lot of experience with it. What are your thoughts on Eldritch Battery 2.0 versus 1.3?
I like the new Eldritch Battery, I just don't like the caster meta in which it sits. I like the mechanics of the new Eldritch Battery. I think it's way more interesting. And I think the old Eldritch Battery was harmful long term. But it's like hard to pick out Eldritch Battery by itself, and it's an easy target to blame for all of caster's problems. But I think Eldritch Battery is. I like it. I'm gonna say I prefer 2.0 in answer to your question to keep it somewhat short. Just that the mana-based caster meta at the moment is blah.
With that said, do you think Eldritch Battery still needs more? Do you like the fact that it requires Zealot's Oath in almost every instance?
Well, I mean, you can also do like ES on hit attack-based Eldritch Battery builds and things like that without going Zealot's Oath, but yeah, maybe it needs a little something behind it still. I think I'd be open to GGG trying to trial some things to put behind it, like we were talking about way back in the beta. I think that maybe it could do with a little more love, yeah.
I mean, there is Ghost Reaver, but Leech is in a bad spot. There is Essence Surge, which is pretty good if you're playing like a Totem-type build or something. Essence Surge is pretty good. But I still, I'm with you on that one, Ziggy. Eldritch Battery, I still think it needs more, but 1.3 was going to be long-term dangerous. What are your thoughts, Ghazzy, LiftingNerdBro? Or Ghazzy, we'll start with you.
I think I'm pretty much with Ziggy on this one. What I would like to see to benefit this further, because I do prefer the 2.0 version compared to the other one, because before, Eldritch Battery was a must to run Arctic Armor. Arctic Armor has been changed as well to a better state, in my opinion. But still, the Eldritch Battery is a better state, in my opinion, in 2.0 version. But I think that they should add something such as on hit, you gain a pretty large chunk of energy. I think that would make a pretty nice solution to it, by just giving you some energy. Like you can, like Ziggy said, give yourself jewels or notes to get energy shield on hit. But this would not work for summoner builds and stuff like that, or totem builds in the same way. But it would allow you to actually spec into it and sustain your mana, so to say, by having gained energy shield from hit or spell casting. By having that behind there, not enough to run whatever you want, but since going with mind over matter would actually give it effective HP as well. But give it a large chunk to open up that availability. I think that idea would be nice. But again, to keep myself short, I think that it's better than now than in 1.3. It's really hard to
keep yourself short as you've already gone long. Freaking Ghazzy. It's okay, man. We love you. So, LiftingNerdBro, let me start off with this one then. Let's talk about Blood Rage.
Can I quickly give my opinion on Eldritch Battery?
Yeah, absolutely, go for it.
Zeno,
because I really disagree with you guys. I hate the new Eldritch Battery. I think that the new Eldritch Battery is the main reason why we are all not going for caster builds this time around. I can agree with you that the combination of Arctic Armor, Eldritch Battery, and Cloak of Defiance was way too overpowered, but I've never been of the opinion that just the combination of Arctic Armor and Eldritch Battery was too strong. And I constantly find myself in the situation where I make caster builds now, and the problem is, or where I want to make a caster build, and the problem is always, how can I sustain my mana? Hey, I can go Blood Magic instead. See, and then I'll be going back to Iron
This
Will.
is why I disagree with your disagreement, though. Though I appreciate it, is because you're basically saying what I think is that the problem isn't Eldritch Battery. The problem is mana that you're forced to go Eldritch Battery, and Eldritch Battery isn't the answer for what you're looking for.
Yeah, you can argue that, of course. Although that was the way we solved that.
Something about picking up a keystone in all right. Think about it this way. I'm going to pick up Blood Magic, and now I get 35% life. My Explosive Arrow build feels really good right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up Eldritch Battery on my trap build, so that way I can sustain my mana on ES through traps. Oh, wait, I still need something else. It feels like once you pick it up, you still need something else. And a keystone that relies on another keystone or some other passive does not feel good.
Yeah.
I agree. It drives me nuts. But it's old EB was ridiculously free.
Yeah.
You picked it up and you didn't have to think anymore.
I think the interaction between Arctic Armor and Eldritch Battery was really cool. I really liked the mechanic of stacking mana regen that then helped you with sustaining your skills as well, and not fucking reserving 25% mana when running around with Arctic Armor.
Yeah, they should have added a different skill and left the old Arctic Armor in.
Yeah, I really...
They could have put another skill in for attack-based builds. Yeah. New Arctic Armor is boring. Old Arctic Armor was far more interesting. It was just... I feel like GGG kind of copped out on that one, took the easy road with that one.
Yeah, it feels... And I don't mean any offense to that, but it feels like a lazy solution.
Wait till Arctic Armor gets brought up. We're talking EB right now, okay?
Yeah, sorry. It's all right.
So the next one, let's do Blood Rage. Let's do Blood Rage. 1.3 Blood Rage used to be Chaos Degen, and Frenzy Charges got changed, so we can include Frenzy Charges with Blood Rage here. We'll do 2 in the same. LiftingNerdBro, what are your thoughts on Blood Rage and Frenzy Charges in 2.0 now?
I like how Frenzy Charges are right now. I feel like, though, they are maybe a bit too powerful. I feel like it's often, you know, the go-to choice if you want to stack some damage on lots of builds. Many of the builds that I have done relies on getting capped Frenzy Charges simply because it's an easy way to scale the damage. And I don't like that Blood Rage now is physical damage in the sense that if you're going CI, that it passes through that. But that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think it. I don't know. that's my thoughts. What about you, Ghazzy?
I have 0 experience with Blood Rage. Don't hate me.
Ziggy.
Summoner. Well, I'm gonna say that I like 2.0 Blood Rage and Frenzy Charges, but I'm gonna say what I also said in the beta is that it is way too damn strong. What the hell?
Yeah.
I still can't believe it. They didn't had to tone it back from the beta. I thought for sure. I was like, if this, I remember saying in the beta, if this goes through like it is now, it's gonna be dominant. Every build will be running Frenzy Charges, and every build's running Frenzy Charges. I think it's poor for the long term. Yeah, I think it's bad for the long-term health of the game. This is something that will
power creep.
Need to change soon. I think it's just.
Let me ask you: do any of you guys actually use it for the leech, or do you only use it for the Frenzy Charge generation?
Well, it depends on if I'm playing an attack-based character. The leech is certainly nice to have. It feels it's annoying when you can't have the leech from it when you're playing a spellcaster because you need to. This is what actually I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say I like being strong and I like having frenzy charges that are strong. But I'm actually gonna say no. I don't like 2.0 frenzy charges in Blood Rage because. I feel like now every build I'm like now I gotta run Blood Rage on this build or I gotta put like Blood Dance on this build or some shit like that. To like it's a bore, man. It's a drain. I'm like I don't want to have to do this on this build, but I should because it's so powerful.
Would you rather have it as it were in 1.3 then?
No, frenzy charges needed work back then. I think. It just needs to be a medium between then and now. Like halfway in the middle would probably be appropriate.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let's go 1.6 frenzy charges.
Yeah.
Wow. So my take is all right. So Blood Rage right now is it fits its green theme. It was a green gem, but it was more used in ES builds, which was really weird because Chaos Degen, most green and red builds were like, I'm never touching that until they got enough Chaos Res, and it was just meant for CI kind of thing. You saw it a lot with CI, or a lot of builds running low life, things like that. So Blood Rage, in a sense, for ES type builds got wrecked, absolutely wrecked, and we didn't get something to replace that. So in terms of that, I really don't like it. I do like it now that it fits the green theme, where if you get enough regen, or you have enough endurance charges and fortify things like that, you can actually use it. But I do agree, Frenzy Charges, it's when Frenzy Charge is the answer for every single damage build with the exception of Ghazzy's. There's really no need to use that. I mean, it's like, how can I get more damage? Frenzy Charges. It's the only answer. It's kind of like how Shavs used to be.
I actually wonder if I don't like the more damage multiplier on it. Because that kind of like pulls it away from its kind of niche or its role or its corner of the game. Like it's, the green, the speedy builds. And puts it onto everything because, like, hell, I can scale my degens with it now.
I agree with that. The first time I saw the changes, I felt it ruined the theme of the Frenzy Charges. That again, in my opinion, you could probably make Frenzy Charges more interesting by not just having them give you more damage.
The problem with it is once you include a more multiplier, especially a global one, every single build will want it except for summoners. Every single build. And how do you balance that? Because like 4% of cast or 5% cast speed and attack speed was nothing compared to the other charges. So it's definitely a development type hell thing to balance, I would say. But I do think overall making Blood Rage more of a green theme was good, but they still need to provide something for the ES Energy Shield based players out there now that Blood Rage has been removed. So let's go into something maybe Ghazzy can talk about here.
I do agree with everyone else about the Francis charges stuff.
All right, let's talk low life. Low life in 3.0 or excuse me 2.0 versus 1.3. Ghazzy, low life. Your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that. Okay, I can actually answer this one. I think that it has the difference between not going low life and going low life has changed significantly. It's not that much of a benefit, and I think that the buffs of going low life is not enough. I know that a lot of people feel that low life is super strong, but it still requires a lot of input to be doing it, meaning that a lot of people are not actually, first off, can't do it because of lack of currency. Secondly, you can't do it because of lack of the defensive stats, because you need to put more currency into all the other gear pieces to actually survive being low life. I just get the feeling that with the changes in 2.0 that low life has got a little bit of a nerf, but I do like the other changes around it that is causing the low life to be less good than it was in back 1.3.
Sorry, I was being distracted by your Viri partner.
Like, what was Ghazzy? What was lifting doing?
So low life to me, like attack based low life with the change to Blood Rage, no more attack speed on low life and the change to reduced mana. It seems so pointless to go low life attack based, even with Crown of Eyes. In terms of caster, I still think it's pretty good because paint attunement. And in terms of summoners, which I have very little experience, but a lot of summoners still mess around with low life because they did buff Prismatic Guardian. So there are things like that are out now. What are your thoughts, Ziggy, on low life this go around?
I'll have to put the proviso out there that I haven't played any low life in 2.0, but from my perspective, it looks. I think it looks okay. I think it's okay for low life to be, kind of a nice buff for spellcasters still, but still has its main point of being able to stack a whole bunch of auras, right? That's that to me is like enough. I think that's enough. Like, it doesn't have to have everything making it super crazy like it used to be. I think so. I rate 2.0 as low life from my perspective, but again, haven't played it, so take that with a grain of salt.
LiftingNerdBro, got any input before we go to the next one?
Are you asking me?
Yes, about low life.
Well, my only thing with I haven't really played it too much either, but one thing I really can't stand is that if I'm going to Mortal Conviction, that I have to go through 2 life nodes.
Yeah.
I would rather have some other way of branching over. I get the idea that you have to spend some points to get there, but I really don't like the idea of having to spend 2 worthless points, almost, on that. That's it.
Low life doesn't always require you to go Mortal Conviction. That's just one version of it. I personally never use Mortal Conviction for my low life builds.
Okay.
Never.
Okay.
Let's bring out a salty one here. You ready? The big one, in my opinion. Reduced mana. Reduced mana. Ziggy, your thoughts on the reduced mana change?
2.0 wins.
Really? Wow.
Reduced mana? What the fuck? Why would anyone like that? Does anyone really miss reduced mana?
No, okay, so here's my beef with reduced mana. They removed the use of the gem. Their idea was, well, we don't want you to have to use this gem anymore, so you just put in your aura and you don't need that required 4-link. Yay! But they only gave us the equivalent of a level 8 reduced mana, pretty much, on every gem. So now you actually, like, if I want to run Hatred Grace, before I could run Hatred Grace, reduced mana, and I could still go on Mana Leech. Now I need Hatred Grace Charisma to play a build like that.
So allow me to expand a little bit here, right? From my perspective. Yeah, the reduced mana gem sucks now.
Yeah,
that's okay. I mean, technically 2.0 reduced mana is worse, and they should figure out something creative to do with that gem. I think the removal of reduced mana from auras though is a good thing. And as for, I think the the rebalancing of auras, as in their new reservation amounts post reduced mana change, is almost in my mind a separate thing. So there was these two kind of separate things. There was the removal of a mandatory pointless gem that everyone just used anyway. That was you know, a non-choice, and removing it opened up choices to use more things like curse on hits on heralds, and more freedom to use different gems in a very, you know, gem tight economy that we're in right now for the game. And then the separate one is the aura rebalancing, which the aura rebalancing is maybe a little simplified. So I think maybe this idea that every build just runs a 50% and a 25% is maybe a little disappointing for PoE.
Huge.
I think.
What I think they should do.
But reduced mana itself, its removal, I'm very happy with.
The removal, good. But, like, for instance, you have a level 1 Wrath Gem. Give us what level 1 reduced mana used to give to it. You have a level 15 Wrath Gem. Now, what old level 15 reduced mana used to give it with that. So as your gem levels up, it will reflect the aura reduction that it used to give. You know, you want the gem gone, remove the gem, but give it to the aura. I would love that change.
That's a cool idea.
I mean, for me, the aura changes has been in a situation where the only thing that happened to me in 2.0 is that my red slot reduced mana turned blue to a main color, so I don't have to get 4 off colors on my helmet. I can go with 3 off colors. So instead of paying 1,500 to 3,000, I'll pay 800 crumbs. That's the difference. That's what happened to me. I just put in an Enlightened gem instead, but I had to invest a shit ton of time to level it. Now, obviously, I just bought it, or actually I had it before, but that's the only change that happened to me, and I just felt that was stupid. That's my comment around it. It felt stupid. I liked the aura reservation change, but again, my problem, going back to the previous question about low life, I feel that there's still buffs required towards low life builds, and I don't want to see any energy shield potions, stuff like that. I just want to get aura sorted. That's the problem. Auras are an issue, which brings us to having issues with reduced mana. That gem is completely shit right now. They need to rework that and do something fun about it. But auras, giving them the reservation based on level would be an excellent solution to it.
Yeah. I guess one of the questions here is if the game is going to be, in quotations, too easy if we are allowed to run that additional aura or herald without having to use a reduced mana or enlightened gem. And I would really love to run that extra, because it's just fun. It's fun to add in that extra herald. And it feels really annoying now having to spec into charisma or sovereignty or whatever it does. For that small benefit, it's usually not worth it. So, yeah, I would like to see it being balanced in a different way. That's probably my take on it.
All right, so here's a couple different ideas that have been going around. One, I think everyone can agree here that Enlightened doing the reduced mana, it defeats the purpose of changing reduced mana, because now you have a much more expensive way to run reduced mana by getting the Enlightened gem. And with level 4 Enlightened, let's be realistic here. Who the hell goes out of the way to get that in a temp league? You know, the super rich people. Exactly. You have to invest your mother's freaking maiden name into that. You lose your family name to have a level 4 Enlightened gem. It's crazy. Secondly,
well, so you say that it's pointless to reduce mana and then make Enlighten do the same thing.
Exactly.
But then you say that no one is able to use Enlighten, so
no,
in my mind,
level 4
Enlighten, right?
Level 4
Enlighten.
Okay. I mean, let's be honest, old Enlighten was pretty junk too. But
I mean, there's only a few like edge cases where you can use like a lower level Enlighten to squeeze an extra aura into, if you like, maybe if you're using like an Alpha Cell and you use an Enlighten to squeeze an extra Herald into like an Ellie Bow character or something. That's kind of like, there's only a few little edge cases there, so I don't really have any problems with Enlighten.
Yeah.
Their whole point of removing reduced mana is so that if aura builds, if you really want to go out of your way, you have to get Enlightened now. Or if I'm playing, like I said, Hatred Grace, I love Hatred Grace. I don't want to go Hatred Arctic Armor, I don't want to do Hatred Herald of Ash, I want Hatred Grace. I either get Charisma for 5 points, or I get Enlightened, and barely have enough mana to sustain it. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this really hits the caster defenses as well. Because you're not able to run that defense because you don't have mana to then cast your spells.
Yeah, it's really hard in the current setup to justify any defensive auras on most builds, especially really casters.
Yeah,
And
go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, all right. Reduced mana gem. All right, if I'm ever going to use reduced mana gem, I'd rather use Mana Leech. I'd rather use Elround Jewelry. I'd rather get the reduced mana nodes in Templar before I ever use that gem. So now it's 100% obsolete.
Or even Blood Magic would be better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't see any situation where you actually use reduced mana over Blood Magic. Is there any situation you guys would do that?
Sorry, what?
I would use Mana Leech. Like, even Whispering Ice, I was like, maybe I'll use reduced mana. No, I'll just use Mana Leech.
Yeah,
like
Mana Leech or Blood Magic. So,
but I mean, when it comes to reservation problems, we talked about defensiveness of casters and stuff like that. It's even worse when it comes to Chaos Converter builds using Infernal Map.
Because that's such a huge meta that needs to be balanced around.
When someone think of the Chaos Converter builds.
Sorry, just had to keep yourself above 35%.
Zeno's not happy.
I just don't like the reduced mana. Like, it would have been completely okay with their logic. They're like, everyone has to use reduced mana, and now we're not going to have it anymore. So instead, we're going to give you really crappy, aura reserve on your auras, and you have to use Enlighten. And it was just like, question mark? What?
Yeah, it was just like their separate thing was them wanting to rebalance auras at the same time. Would you think it would be okay to have kept the auras, basically as they were with a leveled up reduced mana?
Yeah. Like, they changed Discipline. Discipline actually got a buff by making it much lower. It was 60%, now it's 35%.
Yeah.
That was the only one. And, like, obviously you can't do that to Determined Grace. They're just too good. They're just... You'd run Determined Grace in every build together with IR if that was the case, if they lowered those. So, like, it still feels like as strong as Grace and Determination are, if you want to use the term Hatred, cool, you can play a Blood Magic build. But if you want to go Hatred Grace, you have all sorts of mana gain on hit in that side of the tree, and you can't utilize it. You just can't, because you either need Charisma, you have to invest, or you need Enlighten, and it's just
I'd like to, on that topic, I'd like to see like just a couple of percent shaved off here and there. Like if the Heralds cost 22% or something weird like that. Although it would, it would like frustrate people because they're like, it's not a round number. It would mean that it's just having like 3 or 4% unreserved mana is like you still have to put a little bit of effort into making that work, into either maybe using some Orient Jewelry or getting your mana on hit just perfectly tuned. But you can do it right without needing to make your build feel super horrible.
What's that, Ghazzy?
Now, if there's any aura that actually needs to drop in reservation, it's Haste. Level 20 gives you what, 16% cap?
The problem with Haste is SRS.
It's balanced for SRS.
Yeah, it's balanced around SRS, man.
I mean, SRS, when you're at the point where you're casting a Raging Spirit at 0.23 seconds per cast, 10% cast speed is required.
It's the attack speed as well that it gives it, and it.
Come on,
the synergy, man. It gives you cast speed. It gives they're getting more SRSs out, and they're attacking quicker.
Still.
Let's be honest, SRS would still be insane without.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So.
I mean, even if you drop that, you cannot add any other auras that would actually benefit SRS anyway, so that's not a problem, because you're already running Anger, Hatred, and Haste. You're already running these auras, so they cannot be benefiting from more auras, but dropping the reservation on Haste is actually required due to the small amount it actually gives you for that huge reservation. But
move speed, I mean, the Val Haste and Haste, the amount of move speed you get from that is just direct clear speed. It's crazy. People undermine how much move speed that gives you too. Ziggy hates Haste. I think Haste is awesome.
Yeah, I really like this one.
Need to buff reservation-wise.
I don't hate Haste. It's just like the last aura you use.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all.
I'm just hating it, dude.
You hate it.
I mean, I don't hate it. It's just on the bottom of my like list.
Let's go into the next salt mine. All right, you ready?
Yeah,
Leech changes. Leech. Both mana and life leech this league.
Yeah, I'll just start with saying I don't like it. I think they are so unrewarding, and even you have to try really, really hard to make it work. I think this is what I talked about earlier, that I felt the game was still in beta. This feels like a change or something they've wanted to change and improve upon but haven't finished. It feels like a job unfinished to me. I'm not saying that there isn't ways of making it work, but it just doesn't feel like it's intended or working as intended. To quote Blizzard. So yeah, I don't know. What are you guys thinking, Ziggy?
So I guess I'll go two areas here. The first is one that's been classic throughout Path of Exile's history is, why does Mana Leech always get the same treatment as Life Leech?
Yes,
They're not the same thing.
That's a good point. That's actually a really
preach
good
it,
point.
preach it, please.
Oh my god. Okay, so with that out of the way, I like what they're trying to do with Leech. This idea of making fights a little more threatening. You have to manage your flasks and stuff a little better, and making bosses scarier and stuff like that. And I like the idea behind the Leech mechanics, but it's not done. It's not finished. It doesn't work. Yeah. So yeah, 2.0 is 2.0 Leech is requires further investigation, requires further work. Definitely.
Here, I'll be the non-politically correct guy here. It sucks.
Yeah.
Mana gain on hit and life gain on hit is better in nearly every single situation. And ES builds, with the exception of summoners, are really, really struggling right now because of it. You actually have to be very creative with your ways to sustain ES. Like, Energy Shield Recharge at this point is better than Leeches for sustaining. Val Pact, you need like so much Leech to even notice anything with Val Pact, I feel. I don't know. I think Zealot's Oath is better than it.
Insane amount of damage. I'm actually going to use Life Leech with my CI character, and you can't, with the build I'm going with, you can't get that much Leech. So the only way to solve it is to get insane amount of damage, and that's the way of solving it. And I agree, the 2.0 changes is rather bad compared to 1.3. Now, I didn't use any type of Leech builds back in 1.3, but I am using it in 2.0. And as soon as I started looking into it, I was like, what the fuck happened to Life Leech?
No, Life Leech is... It's so weird using a Life Leech gem as an attack-based build. Like, what?
Yeah.
An old Blood Rage, something. Or you would have enough Leech through gear. Or, like, even Jewels. You can get Leech on Jewels, and it still feels like it does nothing. We need a buff to Leech. It
hurts
bad
the
right
already, like, in-pain casters as well. They're already on the ground, bleeding out and dying, and then Leech comes along and doesn't help them up.
This is why you see a lot of Iron Will builds and Totem builds, or RF builds. Because regen is better than going Leech. You can throw down a Totem and have tons of strength and life, and then armor is so good. There's no reason to even mess with self-based casting on the right side of the tree right now. Same thing with Trappers. I feel, with the removal of Thornflesh, I feel like Trappers don't really serve a role right now. Trappers and Miners.
Trappers could use some extra utility to make them more
they're so squishy.
Out.
They're so squishy.
I agree.
So let's go with that. Reflect in 2.0 versus 1.3. Ziggy.
Oh, Reflect, man. I don't. So I was so surprised when they removed Thornflesh. I was like, what? No way. I did not expect that, not even in 100 years. Because my view on it was always, I accepted, I'd come to accept that Reflect was a necessary thing. That we needed Reflect, otherwise we'd all fall to sin and we'd all just live lives of debauchery and tooltip DPSing and we'd all end up going to hell because of it. But, I mean, so Reflect was removed, and I'm not burning in eternal hellfires yet, so maybe we're going to be okay.
To clarify, Elemental and Physical Reflect still exist. It still exists on maps. Before, Ziggy, you were playing an Explosive Arrow build. They removed Thornflesh, and I don't need Val back.
Here's my personal story, right? So I was playing Explosive Arrow, and I was like, the whole way through, I was very, very scared of Thornflesh. We're clearing very nicely. Had to redo my entire build to get Val Pact. Like a couple days later or something, they're like, we're removing Thornflesh. I'm like, okay, and I'll remove Val Pact. Damage.
And then now you have regen as well. And you're
now
an Explosive
regen, oh my god, so much nicer to play. It's like I can run Blood Rage now, I can get regen. Oh my god, this is fun. So I had more fun post Reflect removal with that character. But yeah, I'm like, so we still have single target to Reflect that kind of keeps some builds in check. You have to have you have to basically do nothing to try and mitigate some sort of Reflect for single target Reflect to do anything to you.
Or
and
be the
Reflect
six-man
maps
party.
is like, if you have a build that cannot lose much to be able to run Reflect maps, then you're like, hey, I can run Reflect maps, I save some currency. Otherwise you just avoid it. So I don't know. I don't know where to put Reflect. I think I like the game more now without it, but I'm still in the back of my mind, for so long I believed that Reflect was necessary to like keep for the health of the game. But we've been without it for a while now, and I don't know. We seem to be doing okay. What do you guys think? Are we doing okay? Are we gonna be all right? Tell me.
No, it's fine. Chaos damage. I don't care about reflect.
Oh, chaos damage and summoners. What do you care?
Not asking you, Ghazzy.
Fun police has arrived.
I personally would like to see reflect back. I think reflect is an interesting mechanic that makes you. You need to build around reflect, and I like the idea behind that. I like that you can actually do something to prevent something from killing you. On the other hand, it's also very, very refreshing not having to deal with reflect, but it seems, to me, again, it feels a little lazy, just removing it like that. With reflect, I would rather see it as something you could remove for temporary leak, so you could increase build diversion, you could allow people to try these things, and then later add in reflect again. I would like to see reflect added back to the game. I think it's interesting when you build around it.
So there was a rumor mill going around that it got removed because I think it was Neon got killed off screen by Thornflesh, and that was the big problem with Thornflesh. It reflected it got reflected both physical and elemental damage, and you got off screen to buy it. And that is a big problem with reflect, is the off screen. You shouldn't 100%. Die to that.
Yeah, you should always be able to play around something, I think, in the game. The game should always have like a skill component to it, and off-screen reflect was not that. I mean, it just punishes arbitrarily skills that happen to shoot off screen, which you can't help sometimes, like split arrows, they fly off screen. Or they chain to a thing. I mean, you can kind of mitigate it with things like explosive arrow by not like 5 stacking things if you don't know reflects there. But for some things you can't help it. Off-screen reflect was a shitty thing, so I totally agree with that as a reason for Thornflesh's removal for sure.
No, if they're going to bring back old-based aura reflect, rare monster aura reflect, the problem is Leech cannot compensate for the damage dealt back.
No.
So Leech either has to be balanced or something.
Yeah. Honestly, it's a shitty mechanic. Thornflesh is a better mechanic than it.
Yes.
Because of the way that, all of a sudden you have 50 crabs there on top of the aura. At least, that's I think, a shitty interaction. I shouldn't die to crabs.
What I like the reflects is how it pretty much stopped many builds that were, going apeshit crazy with the DPS. You kill things before they touch you with non-SRS builds in this case. Looking at cast and crit discharge build, just going in blowing things up. I've been having some issues with some reflect enemies. As soon as I meet one, I can die if I don't pay attention, but I can play around it. But if I were into meeting a big pack with everyone getting elemental reflect, I'd die no matter what I do. I'd rip instantly. And I mean, I like the idea of not being able to go through a map the way I'm doing with my current character. It's a cast on meter kill discharge. I cycle through an entire map. That's it. I just go through. Everything dies where I move. I don't even have to stop still or stand still to kill something. I run through it. Everything dies where I walk, and then I loot. It's like the burning miscreations summoner style, if you guys remember that. Just walk through a room, everything dies. That's what you did. And I'm not really a big fan of it. It's fun, but it kind of gets boring after a while. I'm gonna make a guide for it, and then I'm probably never gonna touch the character again because I don't like that playstyle.
My beef with
not in the long term, at least. Sorry.
My beef with old reflectors was on a Facebaker Marauder once, and I was just killing a pack, and this mob came sprinting through as a turbo map, and he had Ellie reflect, and as I'm mid swing, I kill it, and then I die because this elemental reflect guy just ran out of nowhere.
What do I do to that, right? Yeah.
Where's the skill in that?
It's a shitty feeling, exactly.
Mechanics like that is no fun. I think we'll see reflect back though. To me, it feels like we saw a lot of changes to reflect in the beta. They tried a few different combinations, and then they decided to go with whatever it, was in when it went out of beta, and then they removed it. I think they simply aren't happy with what they came up with. I don't think their intention was to remove reflect from the game.
It'll probably be back next league.
I think they're going to bring something back. I think that's kind of the idea. There's a few things they could do. They could make reflect so that it's not like a one-shotting mechanic. Have it be like a staggered damage, or apply your damage back to you as a dot, so you have a chance to react to it. I think that'd be a good solution. Or maybe like an on-off effect that only activates when it's a certain close to you, and then deactivates like like every 5 seconds or something like that. So kind of like, it's actually something that Diablo 3 did pretty well, was its reflect as an on-off mechanic that you can kind of play around. I like that as a mechanic.
The problem with damage over time damage is that if we want, we can just log out. I mean, this is what we can do with what's it called? The blood skill as well. What's it called? Corrupting blood. So if you're really close to dying, let's log out. And this is not a discussion about the whole logout thing. It's not about that. It just opens up for that issue as well, I feel.
It's pretty obvious that because we're thinking about it and discussing it this much, that reflect, it sounds like it's a cool part of the game, but we don't want it some gimmicky one-shot type mechanic.
Yeah.
And that goes for everything in Path of Exile. We don't want the one-shot gimmicky mechanics. I mean, and looks like that's what they've been trying to deal with over a long time, trying to reduce that. And yeah.
So let's bring up the next one. The one I want to discuss now is some people like the challenge because the power creep has been real. If you watch old Path of Exile videos, like 2 years ago, a guy with clearing a map in 10 minutes with his two-handed ground slam was amazing. Yeah. Now it's like clear speed. Power creep has been pretty real, and 30k DPS is now your build sucks. 30k DPS back then was your build was godly. Something to think about I wanted to really discuss was the global monster damage. They increased the global monster, or gave it a more 25% global damage to every mob. Do you guys like this change in 2.0? Do you think this is is this a counter to power creep, or is this just something that needed to be in the game? Ziggy, we'll start with you.
I don't think it really did much to disrupt the clear speed manner, the power creep in that regard. Like, it doesn't really change for the most part how fast we kill things. I think I definitely like the idea of the game being made more difficult. In fact, it's been something that I've been vouching for quite some time. But the mob damage increase seems to have mostly just, it might just be the Act 4 mobs, but it seems to have mostly just introduced kind of a bit more of a BSE element to the game, where I don't think it's been a positive change.
It seems now like before last league, if you had 150% HP, that was like minimum for hardcore. Now it's like 200% or bust. That's what you hear from all the top players, 200% HP or bust. And it's hard to get that on the right side of the tree. Physical damage is through the roof now because of this, so everyone's going armor. That's where life is. And it's promoting a more of a tank-type gameplay, or you need to build like Incinerate that requires very little damage so you can spec more into defenses.
Yeah.
What do you think, LiftingNerdBro?
I'm wondering if I was thinking about this the other day, but I'm wondering if the spike damage and the reason it feels so much harder, the reason we need to have so much more life has more to do with the removal of endurance charges and immortal call, that combination, because that really saved us from those spiky situations before. So I can't figure out what the answer is here. Obviously there are monsters who deal more physical damage, but I personally don't like it. I think spike damage is a boring thing to play around, and it makes you, when you die to spike damage, it makes you feel like, hey, I couldn't have prevented this was not due to my lack of skills that I necessarily died here. You can then of course argue that you shouldn't have gone in there if you had proper game knowledge, but then again, yeah.
It's almost as if it stops promoting skill based and now it's more gear check.
Yeah,
gear checks are always sad in the player. What's the number one thing you see from new players? What's a cheap, effective build that I can get into? Things like that. And now that kind of drops that out the window.
Exactly.
So I think overall, no one really. I call it a dumb hard type mechanic. There's when you run out of ideas, you just like, here's more damage. That really doesn't do anything to power creep. It just makes other builds stronger.
It's not, in my mind, the right solution to what I see as the issue of the clear speed matter, and I think that I think the game should be harder than it is now, but with a longer time to death.
Yes,
I agree.
Because that promotes more tactical gameplay, more skill-based gameplay.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's talk about something new here. Let's talk about some of the newer skill gems that came out. Now, obviously, some of them still need work. We don't need to make fun of Magma Orb anymore. We've done that enough. Frost Blades, etc., etc. But let's talk about something like Ice Crash. Do you think that Ice Crash has been something that's been very good for the meta? For a long time now, we've two-handeds have kind of got a lot of flack, but with Fortify and Ice Crash, Cyclone, things like that, do you actually like the new skill gems that are coming out? The new attack-based skill gems?
I think a lot of the attack-based skill gems feels, again, unfinished. Like they were rushed a bit, and there's some good ideas in there, but they don't seem to be too balanced. You saw how many times, or I don't know how many times, but Ice Crash was nerfed a few times. Then we have Frost Blades, which seems like a decent, but nothing, particularly good. Yeah, I'm not that big of a fan of it. My main gripe is, however, and this again is because I feel like it's a little rushed, is something like Multi-Strike not working with Ice Crash for a very unique reason. I really dislike that, and I feel like there should have been put more. We should have had a better explanation for why something like that is. Otherwise, it just feels like, hey, why not just have unique exceptions to each skill?
So I remember watching your stream when 2.0 first came out, and you loved Wild Strike, and you were loving your build, and then someone dropped the bomb on you that melee physical damage doesn't work for it, and your world was crushed. Yeah. And it's like, why are we coming out with these awesome, cool skills that we love the way they look, they're freaking cool as hell, but then they don't even work with melee physical when it's a melee spec? It's only the initial attack works. None of these secondary effects work with melee physical, and it's really disheartening. It's almost like they need to spend more time on it. But then I personally like the fact you don't use Multi-Strike on Ice Crash. It's nice to actually have, well, you know what? For once, a support gem, Multi-Strike isn't used for everything.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with that, but there needs to be a good reason as to why Multi-Strike doesn't work with Ice Crash.
It'd be overpowered as all hell. It would counter the less attack speed
I get what you're saying, like a mechanics reason why it doesn't work with it, not just this just doesn't work with this, which is happening more and more in PoE. Like I remember a year ago, I would say things like wording in Path of Exile is extremely precise. Tags are extremely precise. Something that says this will work with this always. Over time, that has been less and less true, and I don't say that anymore because it confuses people now. Because now there are more exceptions to the rules than there are, things that actually work with the rules these days. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, like Flame Surge can't ignite, things like that.
Yeah, and it kind of takes away the power from the players. I mean, there's also the issue with Magma Orb, where projectiles and faster projectiles and slower projectiles actually didn't really have any impact besides the damage increase that they add to the skill. So I don't like that, and I don't mean any offense when I say this, but it feels like it's rushed and it feels a little lazy.
I think it's in this case, I think this is less of a case of rushing and lazy, just more of a case that they want to make more and different and interesting types of skills. Their old system just doesn't support it, and the system will need an overhaul for them to continue if they want it to have good communication in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. The intentions
it's going to be something they'll have to eventually address, I think.
I have two more before we go to the next segment I want to talk about, if you guys don't mind. The big one
I love this segment, by the way, Zeno, by the way.
Thank you. I'm trying here, dog. Shotgunning. Boom. Shotgunning. Huge change. Some builds have felt like Freezing Pulse. Some people play it and they can't stand it, but then some people play Freezing Pulse totems and love it. Now, Ziggy, I know you're on the fence with this one, and I want to hear what your input is about shotgunning.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I am kind of on the fence on it. I think the shotgunning removal was wise and good for the health of the game, but I think spells post shotgunning in 2.0 are far less interesting now. For example, things like Freeze Pulse, I thoroughly dislike now without the shotgunning change. I think that the shotgunning was removed, but so many spells now are left languishing in a state that where their mechanics relied and made sense with shotgunning, and now they just feel all the same. Things feel the same, or they feel shit, or they just don't work. Like Fireball, for example, is
to be fair, Fireball
such a disappointing skill right now.
But
it just sucks more.
I don't think Fireball was that bad before. You could clear high-level maps. I had a Fireball build. I could do 77, 78 maps with decently.
No, it feels useless.
The problem we have with the shotgunning now is that we have spells that are falling behind. They're now not usable in a proper way. That's a big problem with the shotgun. I do like the change to the shotgunning removal, but we have another problem, which is what I have used in my Close to Chaos damage build, that I use Arctic Breath, for example, that the overlapping AoE splash effect from projectiles is still so-called shotgunning. You do an indirect shotgunning by splashing damage from multiple projectiles that does damage on the same target. And this can be done by creating a frost wall or shooting into a wall or whatever you want to do it against a pack. That can actually shotgun an entire pack if you want to, which still makes shotgun still exist in a little bit of a gray zone, while some other spells are completely out of the way and no longer working at all as intended from the start. I mean, no one is using a freezing pulse build anymore, but Arctic Breath, for example, would still work a little bit worse, but it still works with indirect shotgunning effects. And I think that's it's poorly made. I think that I think it's wise that they removed the shotgunning, but they need to also adjust everything else accordingly, because previously spells has been designed to work with this, and now it's not. But they're not getting rebalanced towards the new changes.
Here's shotgunning removal is awesome, and you could tell it's awesome because builds like Incinerate still dominate. The problem is they did not tune the rest of the skills, like you said, Ghazzy. So some builds like Incinerate are still crazy. Flame Totem, still really good. They just need to get the other skills where they are. And I would like to see a buff, a patch note that didn't say increase damage by 10%, increase damage by 10%. Like, actually test the dang thing and give me a good number to make it up like everything else.
The tuning is only part of the problem for me. Like, what the bigger issue in my mind is that the mechanics weren't adjusted to make sense now with post-shotgunning. For example, Freeze Pulse still stacks when you aim anywhere more than, like, over your character's toes. If you aim further than your character's toes away from your character with Freeze Pulse, all the Freeze Pulses all stack on top of each other with LMP, right? Or GMP. Like, and that makes no sense now. That's, that's just so, like, all they need to do is move it out, like, a couple game units, the aiming point, before they start stacking, and make a forced non-stacking to an extent where it's basically fanned out so that there's only a minimal overlap. Well, like, mechanics changes like that for so long. Like, they know about this, but they haven't made this change yet, and that's such an important change for the quality of, like, I would maybe consider playing some Freeze Pulse post shotgunning if it wasn't like stacking on top of each other all the time pointlessly.
Like Incinerate right now, it always is fanned out. If Freezing Pulse was like that, problem solved. You know, you can deal with using LNP. But like you said, Ziggy, you have to put the damn cursor on your foot because it's ground targeted, and that's just really awkward gameplay for it. Might as well just go Freezing Pulse totems. They'll do it automatically.
Exactly.
Am I the only one who actually feels that shotgunning was an interesting mechanic by itself? I feel like they're taking away a cool mechanic.
No, you're not.
Okay.
I like it as a mechanic and think skills should bring it back. I think like when they introduced Ball Lightning and made it the exception to shotgunning by making it have an anti-shotgunning mechanic, I think they should bring spells or maybe redesign some of the existing spells to include shotgunning. Yeah. So this spell will overlap, or, you know, add that in, because it makes an interesting playstyle. Getting up close and trying to overlap your projectiles is an interesting playstyle, and they should add that back in with more skills.
Well, if you think about
Gray Zone, we almost have that with our Gray Zone of, for example, Arctic Breaths I've been using lately, how the splashing effects on those actually do overlap. So we have that for certain spells, but it's still in a little bit of a Gray Zone. And it's not working super good due to how projectiles are interacting with the frost wall if you want to create that wall yourself. Otherwise, you have to stand inside a wall.
Frost wall's bugged at the moment too, which is so annoying.
Like, think about skills like Magmorb. It would actually be pretty good if shotgunning still existed, but because it doesn't, it's so godforsaken terrible, and like aiming and everything like that. Might as well just go Flame Blast, hold right click, you got everything in a circle, it dies. You know, it's definitely a mechanics thing, and I think shotgunning it's a good positive removal for the game. You just need to balance the other skills and change the mechanics of them. If you're going to remove an essential part of the game, you have to fix the mechanics of everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just surprised over the past 3 months we've seen some, you know, percent damage changes to spells and no things like, you know, fix the targeting of Freeze Pulse, which I think should have been, like, those should have been the priority over everything else, over rebalancing the damage.
So the last one I'm going to finish with is, it's been kind of a hit or miss. Some people say it's still fine, some people say it's not. I want to talk about evasion builds. This league, you've heard a lot of people saying evasion shit, go armor, but then you've seen evasion builds do just fine. What are you guys' thoughts on the evasion meta this league? We'll start with you, LiftingNerdBro.
well, I feel evasion is weaker than armor, but I think evasion is good. I've played many evasion builds this league and done just fine. I think this is the issue where you see a armor being powerful, and then people start to chant that evasion sucks. It's not really a good, exactly as Ziggy is showing right
Path of Exile's history has basically been armor sucks, evasion sucks, armor sucks, evasion sucks.
One of the issues is probably that lightning coil has gone up in price, so you don't have that easy access to some physical mitigation together with evasion, but still evasion I think is fine. There is issues though with evasion versus some bosses where you simply aren't able to evade the damage and you'll get killed almost instantly. I believe Rezo has these swords he puts out and that kind of stuff, so that's annoying. But yeah, what about you, Ghazzy? What are you thinking?
I think that, like Ziggy said, it's always been like as soon as one gets stronger than the other, half the PvE community starts chanting like, "Oh no, evasion is shit," and they fix that, and then the other half start chanting, "Hey, your armor is now bad. What are you guys doing? Come on, fuck off. Let's fix this."
Yeah. It seems you can't win. I agree.
Yeah, I personally, I'm not a big fan of evasion builds, no matter how strong it is, because of the way the mitigation works, as it's a chance of not getting hit. But I'm also more focused usually around the in-game content, such as Uber tier content, where you get hit hard. You get hit hard. Either you mitigate that, or you don't mitigate it. If you dodge it or don't dodge it, that's not a safe mitigation for me versus those type of fights. So that's my point of view, my experience with these type of defensive stats. Now, I understand how evasion can be as good as a good mitigator, but it's always been chanting of what's best. The one that is lacking a little bit behind, half the community will be chanting that it's not good enough. It's always going to be that type of circle going around in the circus. But like Lifting said, the lightning coil going up in price is basically the only result that I've seen.
Well, it went up in price because they made it more rare. They made it tier 1 rarity versus tier 2.
That also.
So have you guys noticed it decreasing in price again?
They made it more common. They made it 4 times as common. So.
Yeah. Have you guys noticed that yet?
No. Well, it depends, because right now everyone's dropping off, so supply and demand's all messed up. We have to wait till next league to really get a good price. Kind of like Shavs this league versus last league. Obviously, Shavs is dirt cheap. My experience with evasion, I played more evasion than armor in this league, and I've played a lot of armor builds. Evasion is still good if you stack a lot of things like... Dark Ray Vectors are great this league because of dodge and frenzy charge buffs. It's awesome. But on the same token, why the hell would you ever make a boss that has Resolute Technique that has a ton of HP?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm okay with the Exile, the Helmet Exile with Resolute Technique. One guy once in a while that you could kill quickly. I'm okay with the Helmet Exile having Resolute Technique. But Rezo having Resolute Technique makes it so you can't even do him in an 82 map as an evasion build. It's really frustrating. I was watching Havoc do his Poison Arrow build, and he's like, I'm not even going to touch the Rezo. It's like, if you didn't have a tons of armor, you could not do that boss because of Resolute Technique. So... Evasion's fine. I just think that some of the monster balancing really hurt evasion, and with the spike damage, the 25% more damage, it really did hurt evasion this league. But there were counters to it. They added a lot more buffs to frenzy charges and dodge. So I think evasion's solid minus Duresso. But screw that boss.
I think
I agree with you. Sorry, go ahead.
I agree that armor becoming better is a big part of why evasion's seeming a lot worse now. But I actually do think there's a bit of an issue with evasion at the moment, though. And, don't forget we had the removal of custom damage taken on Mortal Call, and basically, like, the removal of Lightning Coil in a lot of cases for evasion builds.
But we have Fortify, so that counters that.
Not always. Certainly bow characters don't have Fortify.
True, but bow characters are at range. And they also have a lot more tools. I don't know. I feel like bows are safer than melee evasion any day of the week.
So this is what I'm saying though. Like Spiky Fizz in the game was made worse through what we already talked about with the monster damage change, and then some of the kind of like covering of evasion's weaknesses that we had available to us has been have been removed or made less accessible. So I definitely think there's some issues there that could be enhanced with evasion. I also don't agree with mobs having Resolute Technique at all in the game. I don't think that should exist.
I think, like you said, Zeno, that evasion is fine. It just takes a bit more layers now to make it safe. That can include like lightning coil. It can include Arctic armor, which is actually not to be underestimated together with evasion. It can be fortify, things like that. If you stack these together, I feel like it's a powerful defense. But then again, yeah, it is because armor is more powerful. We hear this massive.
We did get Arctic armor though, I suppose. Us bow characters, evasion bow characters.
I have used Arctic armor on all my bow characters for that.
Yeah, it's a good addition for sure.
Yeah. No, makes good with kiting as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Man, I don't know. Like bow builds, like I had more success with bow evasion builds just because I was like, chill the corruption, Val Burning Arrow, everything dies, no worries. And then like I'm just at range.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to the problem I was talking about of the monster damage not really affecting the clear speed meta issue. Yeah. Is that, bow characters didn't really change that much because you still just kill everything instantly off across the screen. Like, you still just shatter the entire screen with a volley of split arrows. Like, before any of these changes kind of take effect, you just every now and then have that kind of, like, BSE death. That's like a insta-death.
Mm.
Truth. Yeah. So let's move into, let's see how much time we got left. We got, 10 minutes left. Wow, this was a long discussion.
Is everyone okay with going a little longer to fit a few more questions in, maybe?
Sure, let's do it. Let's go with the Q&A.
Sure. I'm the one who hasn't slept for 24 hours, but...
do you guys want to cover Shrapnel Shot real quick, Ziggy? Promised?
Yeah, I mean, we can bring up Shrapnel Shot real quick. So Rory, in a recent he did a presentation on skill design at a game designers conference in New Zealand, and he showed off a potentially upcoming skill named Shrapnel Shot, which is a bow skill that is a little interesting looking. It fires out a projectile, and then it has kind of like a little lightning tendrils AoE in front of the character, a small cone in front of the character. And the post is quite interesting because it talks about like the design and the idea of like kind of creating skills that are like parallel to each other and things like that. And I guess I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts. I was curious on the skill, having looked at it. What were your first impressions, Zeno?
First thing I thought was it follows kind of the same meta that Rain of Arrows follows, which is a very cool bow skill that, like you see a bow skill, you're like, they're all the same, If you're either going pierce or non-pierce, you're going chain with split arrow, all the bow specs feel the same, but Rain of Arrows feels unique. Obviously, Poison Arrow and Explosive Arrow, their own different world, but I'm talking like Rain of Arrows. And Shrapnel Shot seems to follow the same kind of guide as that, where you have this huge cone in front of you and then like a straight line afterward. It's like reverse Ice Shot almost. And Point Blank would work very well with it, which promote like an armor type bow skill, things like that. Yeah, that's
true.
You think that AoE looks huge?
I actually thought it looked small as well.
I thought it looked like the size of my, like really small.
Well, you can get AoE.
I thought it looked like a
cleave
AoE, like a default cleave AoE or something.
It has two problems for me when I looked at it. I think the AoE looks extremely small. I think that requires your bow character to be at a melee range, and then I'd rather go with another build if I want to be that close to the enemies. But I did like the effect of it, but it feels like GGGs are playing around with different sizes and area hits and stuff like that. Look at Magma Orb, look at Ice Crash, Frost Blades or whatever it's called, together, and now Shrapnel Shot. But my second problem is it's doing lightning damage. Like, Shrapnel, to me, would be either a mix of physical and fire or fire. That's what it sounds to me, but it's like,
I would have expected that
that's the picture I get. But those are my two biggest problems with it. But that AoE puts you in a situation where you as a ranger character needs to stand pretty close to actually be there. I'm sure you can maybe sort that with radius skills, but I mean, it feels weird for you to have a bow build designed to be close to be able to use the AoE fraction or size of the actual skill, and then you're having one line of sight for a single target or something. It just feels weird to me.
There's nothing wrong with bows being melee range. Rain of Arrows has done it since the game's release. Well, in closed beta, Point Blank is really, really powerful. The Bow Rod or Lionized Fall builds are really strong.
You can still be at a far range with Rain of Arrows, though.
Yeah, you can still shoot at range. It just benefits melee, whereas this is strictly melee, so it's a little different.
Good point.
Shrapnel, I think I looked at the animations. The thing it resembles the most is Ground Slaying. The way I don't know about the size and range, but the area it influences is similar to Ground Slaying. And I feel like Ghazzy that unless it has some kind of different animation or something like that, it feels a little weird running around with a bow, shooting them straight into the face like that. There
is some things too, like traps. Traps always benefit from point blank, and they would always be in point blank range with a trap. Range attack totems, you can do those. So I'm not saying it's going to be build of the week. Well, maybe it will be, but it's not going to be a super clear speed build. But we don't know. The AoE does look small.
I did like the idea of traps for it with a point blank, but I mean, using this ability without any other changes to it feels like going into an FPS game with a really short range shotgun. I wouldn't.
Feels like a shotgun, yeah.
Yeah, it's like going around with a shotgun. Okay, you're gonna kill a sniper rifle 200 yards away, but you're running there with a shotgun. That's how it feels.
Don't you think it will have issues with the trap, with the cone being like a ground slam?
It could. It's like EK traps. Hit or miss.
Yeah, I hate the cone of ground slam when you're like mobs are close to you and you miss half of them on either side of you. Yeah, pain in the butt.
You getting a little sleep there, Ziggy?
I'm getting a little sleepy though.
I'm curious.
You're the one that said let's go longer.
I'm okay. I'm fine. I think a shrapnel's. I like kind of what they're trying to do, trying to try some kind of like pretty different things. So I applaud that. But I think a shrapnel shot would be more like a little bit more like an EK for bows, and you guys are gonna have a bit of a laugh me saying that, I'm sure. But something that sprays like a bunch of projectiles out rather than this kind of like little piddly little lightning effect near your character. I wasn't really a big fan of that. But my main issue with it is that it's not the skill that I want for bows. There's a skill that I want for bows. I mentioned it at the start. I'm going to mention it again. I want a charged up rectangular AoE in front of your character style skill. And this is kind of what I'd like it to do. I'd like it to be something that has a full charge point. So maybe it's something that takes a second to fully charge. And then that's where it does its full damage and its full width AoE. But I'd also like it to have a second stage, an overcharge stage, where if you were given some other sort of more utility-based benefit for overcharging it to like 2 seconds or something like that, maybe like a knockback or a knock to the sides or something, some other utility feature, I think would be really interesting.
Yes,
but that's like such a different play style and such an interesting way to play as well. I'd love it.
It would also open up less duration gem to actually be used for more than lightning warp.
Yeah, could use some less duration to fully charge it faster. Exactly.
Yeah. I like the idea of that. I would like to see that.
Is anybody else tired of all the new skills being converted into lightning or fire or whatever? Like, I'm so tired of converted skills. Like, there is no such thing as a pure physical in this game because of hatred, because of added fire, because of these conversion skills. It'd be nice to do just physical.
It only annoys me really because of
cursing.
Because of leech mostly.
Yeah, leech and cursing. Like
leech is already so bad. That makes it worse.
It's funny, you play a physical build, but elemental weakness will be better in most instances than vulnerability. And it's just like, what? I mean, granted, vulnerability will be the more multiplier, but it's still, because you're using hatred, added fire, all these things, there's no pure physical. Oh, look, another lightning bow skill, cool.
It might be the whole conversion styles. I don't mind that. I'm just a little bit sick of the whole, trying out different types of area damages versions of the abilities, like the shrapnel, cone, fire, line of sight, magmor, blop, blop, 2 blobs on the ground. I mean, it just feels weird. Can we give something that is actually a little bit more concrete of what it actually does? It's fine if it has the same type of area damage like other abilities. We just want to see new abilities. We don't want to have some sort of weird mechanic that later is only going to be used in specific builds instead of allowing a build to be used in a more wider sense. And it feels like what GGG is doing now is just playing around with these type of different cones. It's like they're playing Warhammer 40k when they're creating abilities. Like, okay, we'll take this circle here and another circle here, but this one we'll take a cone and then a line of sight here. It just it just feels weird to me.
I just want powerful skills again. I feel like I've been missing out on powerful skills since Act 4.
That's because we had like Frost Blades and Wild Strike.
Ice Crash is the only good one. Like, that's it.
Ice Crash is good, yeah.
Ice Crash was good. I agree.
Remember the time when Abyssal Cry was good? Oh wait.
And I feel the same with Wild Strike, Frost Blades, Magma Orb. These things, they're cool, but they are a little underwhelming. It could be really cool to have some new powerful skills that, you know what I mean. You
mean with Frostblades? It's funny, someone's like, you can play Frostblades, my build's working out well. Well, how'd you get past the, you have to target the mob? Oh, I put on multi-strike. So, you mean your first attack misses and your second 2 automatically hit. So my build is 66% good. Got it. You know what I mean? It's like, it just seems crappy.
Yeah, it's the problem with it not being optimal.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
No, Ice Crash is good because you just hold shift and everything around you dies.
Yeah.
I want to hold shift and not have to click on the monster.
Yeah, I love that. Like a permanent reef, a circle reef surrounding me with no downtime and permanent crits. Diamond Shrine. I want to be in Diamond Shrine.
Just a walking Diamond Shrine, just MTX Diamond Shrine. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pay to win.
All right, what do we got for questions, Ziggy?
All right, let's grab some questions here. Okay. Okay. Oh my god. Here we go.
While we're waiting for Ziggy to get one, if you guys want to have any questions that we're doing in the Q&A section, you can do @ZiggyD live, and you can go ahead and post it. There's one from AFXQ.
That's how you're supposed to do it, Zeno. That gives me time to pull out a question. Okay. Do you guys think IR needs a change? Iron Reflexes, reverse the previous dexterity nerf, or buff it in another way? Seems like after the nerf, it was pretty much killed in combination with changing metas since then. So I guess I'll extend this into a discussion of Iron Reflexes on a wavering stance. If you guys have short thoughts on that.
Sure, go for it.
Zeno, kick it off, man.
Okay, so Iron Reflexes, I've played around with it this league. Iron Reflexes works well for bow builds that are using Iron Grip right now. That's where I really had good success with it. The problem with Iron Reflexes, it's dangerous to balance because of Grace and Determination. Grace gives you flat armor, and then that flat armor can be scaled by percentage armor. This is if you have Iron Reflexes, and that is very, very dangerous. Right now Auras did get a hit. If they lower the Auras, so let's say 35% Grace to that, you'd see a lot of Grace Determination builds and be crazy. The Dexterity thing, I actually think was very important for IR, and IR is also a very good tool when you're an evasion build and your evasion melee, for example. Maybe you want to be on the right side of the tree because it offers you more crit. You're playing a dagger build, but you don't want to have to deal with evasion. You want to go armor. I think Iron Reflexes is in a very balanced spot, personally.
No, yeah, I agree with you completely.
I would like to see, as a test, try moving Iron Reflexes further up towards the Shadow and the having it between the Shadow and the Ranger in some way, because I feel like Iron Reflexes doesn't have that much use over near the Marauder and Duelist tree, unless of course you want to do the Aura, Grace, and IR combination. But I think it could be a little more interesting to have it further up towards the Shadow. This, with the current meta of caster defenses, would also make it more interesting to go Grace IR for casters to get some of those defenses. Again, we're going to have the problem with casting skills or for the mana cost, but I think it could be interesting. I think it's good, but it's in a little maybe boring place right now.
It kind of makes sense where it is because the Duelist is the red-green hybrid, and evasion turning to armor, green to red. It makes sense, but it is in no man's land. It feels like you have to spend 3 dex points no matter where you look at it to get it.
Yeah.
You know what? I kind of actually don't like Iron Reflexes. I kind of wish it was just removed from the game. You guys might hate me for that, but I kind of just wish it was removed from the game and that hybrid armor evasion was a little more usable. Because I think hybrid armor evasion makes sense a lot on paper. They tend to cover each other's weaknesses very well, and I think if we were able to get them together in high enough amounts without kind of like obviously the way prefixes work on items don't really allow you to do that too well. But I think if we're able to get them in higher amounts, we'd be able to see a bit more how powerful they can be together. I think there's real potential for armor and evasion to work well together, and I think Iron Reflex is just one thing kind of. If they removed that and made hybrid a little more viable, then I think that would be much nicer, in my opinion.
I would like to see like a combination of ES and evasion. Have some kind of.
You mean like Cloak of Defiance?
Yeah.
ES evasion is actually like a really, really strong combination of stats. It's just you need mirror-worthy gear to make it work.
Remember Spectral Throw dagger builds?
Acrobatics.
Huh?
Spectral Throw daggers used EVES for a while. That was popular back then.
No, I like that, but it seems like we're not going to see that in quite some time.
Yeah. Well,
Just don't want to go ES when you pick up acrobatics usually.
Just a little side thing: the hybrid armor evasion shield is the worst shield base in the game. Because at least the evasion ES, you don't need life on it, because if you're going CI, you're not using life. So if you get high evasion, high ES, good. You can sacrifice that prefix. But armor evasion, you're most likely a life build, so you have to roll life, so you can either only get evasion or armor. You can't get both. So that shield is actually god-awful. And that is one of the problems with hybrid builds.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think the prefixes is the biggest issue for hybrid builds. Maybe we need some new prefixes or something. Or some sort of keystone in the replace of Iron Reflexes or Iron Reflexes to change to something that supports hybrid a little more, rewards hybrid stacking, maybe.
Perhaps on this shield, just make an armor and evasion roll together and make them both half the maximum value. Instead of having 400 top flat evasion or 400 flat armor, make it 200 armor evasion as one roll together. Now that shield is useful.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Okay. Here's a question. I was actually from LiftingNerdBro, and I was reminded by another question from chat. The question was, what would you guys like to see added to the game? I think it was as like an alternative to endgame mapping. So like any ideas that you guys would have would be a good future for the addition to endgame for PoE.
Okay,
besides mapping.
I'll start out with this one then.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I would like to see, and this has been tried in different other action RPGs, but recently, for instance, both Ziggy and I have been playing Devilian, and in Devilian there's this game mode that's called the Abyssal Tower, and it's basically...
That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
Exactly. And basically you go in here... Actually, Ziggy, you explain it. Your English is better.
Okay, I thought you were doing fine, but okay. So what I'd like to see added to Path of Exile is kind of like an endgame mode that's similar to what Devilian does, and I think Torchlight did a bit of it too. This idea of kind of like an endless tower or an endless dungeon, something that gets increasingly more difficult the deeper you go, and it can be done in a roguelike fashion as well, where you have a survival mode where you have one life, and so obviously in standard and hardcore you'd have to opt out at some point, where you go as far as you can, and the rewards get increasingly better, and the difficulty gets increasingly worse, and as you continue on. And it's this idea of like instead of progressing through the map system, it's more like get as far as you can survival mode. And in Devilian, this same idea is also broken out in a different way through time trial mode as well. So you can actually have an end game form of racing that's based on your actual characters, where you do this sort of content, but it's timed instead. So I like this idea of having two separate modes too, because at the moment I think that the kind of like the real focus on clear speed at the moment, it makes sense in action RPGs, but I also think it's a bit harmful to the game. A game where we have such diverse range of effective builds that clear speed is becoming the dominant focus over everything else is reducing kind of like our enjoyment of other builds.
Correct.
A time trial supports builds that people that want to go for clear speed builds. You can have make the fastest possible clearing build and then try and dominate the time trial competitive thing between other players, win rewards, whatever. And then a survival mode doesn't have a timer on it. You go as far as you can, you take as long as you want to do it, you make the most effective build that you can, and then you see how far you can survive. I like this sort of content offers kind of like a dual approach where you can be rewarded for playing clear speed build or for playing an effective non-clear speed build.
Exactly.
So I'd really like to see something like that.
The Ancient Cave from Lufia 2. If you guys ever played that for Super Nintendo. It was a 100-floor dungeon. It was completely randomized. The floors, kind of like Endless Ledge, and you found loot, and you didn't get to keep anything in it, but it was just a fun thing to put, challenge your character, and it'd be perfect in a time like this. Once Path of Exile once GGG announces the end of a league, that league becomes a ghost town for that month or 3 weeks or whatever. Maybe during this time we could do something like this.
The way it actually could look a bit like in Path of Exile would be something like the level 68 unique map. What is it? The one where monsters... No, the one where monsters continuously spawn around you.
Coward's Trial.
Coward's Trial, like you would enter a room in a Coward's Trial, then you would kill all the monsters, and then you'll be able to progress to the next level. and you will have to do this in a timely fashion. I think that would be really fun. It's really fun in Devilian. And,
it's an awesome, excellent end game mode. More games need it for sure, and it would be a great benefit to Path of Exile.
It is. It actually is a bit similar to Greater Rifts as well in Diablo. The idea behind you have to progress within a certain amount of time. However, this is more fast-paced and it's much more interesting. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Ghazzy?
The sound. I like the sound of this. I really do. But what I also would like to see, not just this type of endgame, I want to see a new Atziri. I mean, you might hate me for this, but I want to see a new Atziri.
No, I totally agree.
Isn't that poor Malachi, though?
We need an alternative form of Atziri that requires a different build.
Yeah, I mean, the Malachi is a map boss. Atziri has certain uniques that only she drops. I want to have one new with new unique drops specifically dropping from that specific boss, and I want that boss to be apeshit fucking crazy. And I do not want a level 90 version of Atziri. I want a new boss.
All right, Ghazzy, so I'm going to disagree with you. I understand exactly what you want, but now this is becoming like an MMO, and people are going to farm that boss just for that unique. I think Atziri is like one of the worst things in the game. Having a specific unique from a specific boss creates a whole meta around that, and if your build can't do Atziri, it's bad. Like, think about during Invasion in the league after that. All you heard was Atziri, just for her loots. And the loots aren't even that good anymore with the nerf to Leech and everything. It just seems like keep getting these specific uniques from a boss. I cannot stand that in an ARPG. Explain why you like it.
What I lack in the game right now is that we have, in Atziri map, we have a Val Overlord with lightning damage, we have a Trio boss with physical damage, we have an Atziri with lightning and fire damage. We don't have any specific endgame super boss with cold damage. I want to see all three elements input as endgame bosses. So what I'm lacking for endgame content is a cold damage beating super boss. And the loots don't have to be significantly super brilliant or amazing like Atziri's Acuities, but as long as they're bringing out something new. And of course, such a thing will be farmed. Like I say, no matter how bad the loot is, it's going to be farmed insanely. There will be a lot of currency around it. There will be a lot of services around it. I don't mind that. I just want to have a super endgame boss with cold damage, and then I would also like to have this type of endless dungeon room. And I also would like to point out, from my point of view, with that discussion, to add my point of view there, that such an event should be something you can do in a hardcore map without, when you die, just go back to your hardcore league. And that's my point of view there. But also make sure that you can actually gain experience there, but make that so you can only do that endless map once a day or once a week or something. So it's something you actually have to prepare for, do it, and then you have to wait till next time you can do it. That would be really cool. But I really want to have an endgame boss with cold damage. I lack that in this game right now, and the core map does not give that to me. It doesn't satisfy.
There's Death and Taxes, but Death and Taxes is easier than. It's a little bit harder than Atziri. I don't know. Depends.
I love Death and Taxes. Such a good boss.
Yeah. That's the problem. Like, there's like this whole community in Path of Exile that is obsessed with Atziri. The only thing they do is Atziri. Atziri time clears. Look what I found off of Atziri today. Atziri, like what you do what are they called? Atziri services. It's crazy.
You say that like it's a bad thing, though, Zeno.
It's not a bad thing. It's actually good. I say the guaranteed loot is what makes it a bad thing to me. Because it's like, the only time I could get this unique is if off of Atziri, and now it feels like an MMO. If I wanted that, I'd go play an MMO. Like, this is an ARPG.
Are you talking about...
Well, action RPGs also have a history of loot tables, too.
Yeah, are you talking about loot tables specifically, or loot tables specifically for Atziri?
That's my biggest beef with the series.
Oh, okay.
And then
I like loot tables. I think loot tables are
I like some loot tables. Like divination cards, I think are an excellent form of loot tables.
Divination cards.
I love the loot tables. I really do. I think it's nice, but it shouldn't be super items like a serious Acuity. I don't want game-breaking items. You have to get this to play this super build. I don't want that. I just want the actual boss. That is the loot is items like regular series. I don't mind that. That's perfectly fine for me. But I really want to have a final boss that actually does cold damage. Because besides Deresso, nobody gives a fuck about cold resistance. Really, I play characters with not even maxed cold resistance sometimes because nobody uses it. If I'm gonna go with Syria, I don't care. The cold resistance is so useless. If I have 50 plus, I'm fine. But
I would really love to farm Merveil. Having a good reason to farm Merveil, for instance. I mean, maybe
I miss Merveil farming at the start of a hardcore league.
Exactly.
That was a thing for a while.
Let's say maybe she had like 5% higher chance of dropping specific thematic cold-based items.
Well, that's what I was hoping divination cards would do more of. It just doesn't.
Yeah, I want to see more of that as well. But I understand your criticism as well, Zeno. I understand that.
It goes both ways. I'm glad there's a community out there because it's good for Path of Exile. And in terms of cold bosses, Ghazzy, Haas would like to have a word with you. All trolling aside, I do agree. We do need a cold type boss.
Either that or a super like an in-game map with just a lot of cold damage, just to make something. I want to see it because we have all other elements. Why not giving cold any love? Does everyone in GGG hate cold? I mean, when it comes like freeze is a terrible thing. Like shock you can deal with, but freeze is a very, very scary mechanic. Yeah,
freeze is terrifying. And
there's so many nice, niche boss mechanics you can do around it. You know, your character's frozen during a transition of the fight. And there's so many cool things around it to make it a nice fight experience. Well, looking at a boss point of view. So, I mean, why haven't they done it yet?
I think like as far as loot tables go, it's some people like loot tables and some people don't. I totally get that, Zeno. And I think Path of Exile though does have the capability to allow for both of those types of players. Like there are a bunch of people that only want to farm Atziri and only want to farm something loot table. Those people, same people that love doing battle runs over and over again. Yeah. And I would be perfectly fine, personally, with another alternative boss being added to Atziri. And I've said in the past something that would be like require a completely different build to Atziri to do. Like you wouldn't be able to do it with your Atziri build.
Yeah.
Something that had a completely different host of mechanics so that you would have to create a separate build for it. I think that'll be awesome.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, loot tables are just one of those things where they're like either loved or hated. Like people love to farm Atziri because of that guaranteed, oh my god, I found Iniquities, holy crap, that feel when you get one. I've never even done Uber Atziri, but to me it just seems like something that specific off of a boss. It's I don't know, it's too much like an MMO. I love the feeling of I could kill a white monkey in a tropical island and find a Shavs, but if I could get a Shavs off of Uber Atziri and that was the only place I could get it, that'd just be silly. You know what I mean? It takes away a lot of the hype from the game.
Yeah, that's the other side of the argument for loot tables. I understand that as well.
Well, we got time for, let's say, one more question, then we'll call it a day. How's it sound, guys?
Sounds good. Sure.
Okay. Alrighty. Do you think increasing mob health, pack size, aggro AI would help add challenge to the game? So this question is kind of like alternative options to adding challenge besides just a flat damage increase across the board.
Sorry, can you say that again, Ziggy? Sorry.
You're right. So the question was, do you guys think that increasing mob health or pack size or aggro AI would help add challenge to the game? I guess the question is kind of what alternative ways would you guys like to see difficulty added to the game outside of just adding damage to them?
I would like to see. I would like to see more offensive mechanics, like skills on the ground you can avoid, skills you need to move, you actively need to avoid, things like that. I think that makes up for fun gameplay rather than just buffing their health and static damage. Although I could see the idea behind buffing the minions' health as well right now, because we are killing stuff within less than a second. But I want stuff I can avoid on the ground. That's why, while I like Path of Exile so much more than Diablo, I've always found it very enjoyable in Diablo when you're fighting certain champion packs where there's mortars, there's freezing grounds, there's
arcane lasers and stuff to avoid. Yeah,
it's really fun.
Yeah, I agree. It is. I think that it's a nice element of the combat. It makes the combat more tactical. I agree. I think something that they started looking at with warbands was mobs that would work together in certain ways and have different synergies. I'd like to see packs of more intelligent mobs that are designed to have certain synergies and certain ways of working together, or engage you in different ways. Maybe like split up and try and flank you or things like that. This is a difficult thing to implement as far as increasing difficulty, but I think it would be one of the most rewarding things they could do.
Well, there are mobs already like that. Like, like a discharger. If you kill a discharger before you kill the other mobs, he's not going to discharge on you. And
that's good.
You want zombies to be dumb. And it's hard for GG to not add something like global damage across the board, because it's like the power creep is out of control right now. It's better than it's. I mean, it's the damage is getting higher and higher and higher, and these build expectations are getting more and more and more because we're just getting used to the game. So eventually, things that you're like, well, we need more skill-based stuff. What if I told you a new player coming to the game doesn't know how discharges work and they're going to get annihilated by them anyways? So it's like it's a fine line between making mob AI better and how are you going to stop the power creep at the same time.
I think the problem though with discharge is that it's instant.
It's an instant burst.
Yeah, I think if we just had more telegraphed skills and visual skills that you are able to avoid, maybe make up for chaotic gameplay, but still give the player the power to avoid it.
Yeah, we don't need, like, before anyone thinks, we don't need like circles painted on the ground like an MMR or anything. We're more clever than that. I'd like to see like the discharger kind of like wind up a bit before he unleashes.
I feel that when it comes to the increasing mob health, backslice, aggro AI, when it comes to AI specifically, I know I was going to try to avoid summoner first. I'm just going to point out one little detail here. If they're going to go in to change these type of things to challenge the game, they need to get sorted with the summoner point of view, or summoner minion AI for certain control abilities. I think it's a huge problem there, and they need to fix that before they even consider starting to make aggro AI changes to increase the challenge in the game. It's not like summoners are having a good fun time playing a classic minion build, because we're having a shit ton of problems with the minion controls already. So I mean, if they're going to do that, please fix the first problems behind the scenes before they start making other changes in front of it. It's like adding sugar on shit.
I agree with that, Ghazzy. Although, or I can understand it, but the summoners is only a small part of the game, and while that needs to be balanced around, I still feel there's a much larger pool of players who would benefit from it.
I look at it like this: if they work on summoner AI, they'd probably uncover some other stuff they could do with minion AI too. Like when they implemented lockstep and fixed a lot of predictive. And our summoner bros, I empathize with you guys. You guys have suffered for quite some time as far as AI is concerned.
I play summoner as well. I know how shitty it is sometimes. So, yeah.
Anyways, with all that being said, I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in today. Everyone out there in chat, thanks for showing up. Hopefully, the dead time in Pee-wee's over with. What's Jor 1 month leagues? You guys gotta freaking power through this. Me personally, I'm gonna give hardcore maybe 1 or 2 shots, and then I'm just gonna chill in softcore, Netflix and chill in softcore. You know what I mean?
We know what you mean.
That's not a half bad idea for the 1 month, is it?
Yeah, just because you want to get your challenges done, but you don't want to burn out. And if anything, I think you want that 3 month right away, the next 3 month right away after the 1 month, right? Or do you want like a good week or 2 afterward?
I kind of want to delay. Yeah, I would mind like a week downtime.
Yeah, week's cool, but I don't want another. Like, I felt beta took way too long, and then the game, like you said, LiftingNerdBro, didn't even feel like it was out of beta when it was done. Yeah. So let's hope for best on this. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in. LiftingNerdBro and Ghazzy. So I want to give out a shout out here that we've never done before. Z and I, we host here the State of Exile. These guys host another podcast with Project PT called the Viri Podcast, VIRI, and it's usually on Ghazzy's stream. Yes.
We've moved over to PT's channel at the moment.
Okay, we're at PT's channel. But they host a podcast that's about other games rather than just specific ones like this. And these two are both on there. If you guys want to give any links in chat or give any shout-outs yourselves, by all means, now's your time to do it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Lifting, you want to do this? Since my microphone connection is iffy.
Yeah. Guys, if you want to check out our live streams, it is below. You can see it in the on the window. It's YouTube/LiftingNerdBro, and my Twitch is /LiftingNerdBro. Since Ghazzy's microphone is a bit twisted, I'll do it for him. You can find Ghazzy at Twitch TV/Ghazzy as well. Come in and say hello. We're having a good time.
I have to say, guys, this podcast was excellent. I mean, I haven't slept for 24 hours, but I had a great time.
Yeah.
We're half an hour late today just because we're having such a good discussion.
I try to make the meta discussion more like your problems with the game right now, but the things you like about it. That's what I want.
I really enjoyed that section. I hope you guys watching did as well, because it was a lot of fun for me.
I've been wanting to talk about these things for a long time. Now we finally had the media to go through.
It's got me very hyped to get into the 1 month it has, actually.
Mm-hmm.
No, I always love being part of this, and I think it's going to be awesome. I'm going up to work a 12-hour shift in 4 hours from now.
God bless your soul. You want to give one last quick shout out and explain what your Very podcast is? I'm all about hyping up other things.
Yes, thank you for that. The Very podcast, guys, if you want to check it out, it's hosted on Projects Live. We do it every Thursday. 8 o'clock Central European time. We talk about gaming in general. So we present a game we've been playing. We give our impressions on the game. We talk about a few games you guys may want to check out, and then we usually have some kind of discussion topic of something that has come up recently, something we may be a bit salty about, or maybe very enthusiastic about. And it's a lot of fun. You guys should come check it out. We would love to have you there. And I'm pretty sure if you guys want Zeno and Ziggy, that you will get an invitation within that long.
I think so.
Awesome,
we also have a lot of focus around inviting developers of games to actually give their point of view to have a discussion with the actual developers of specifically indie games. We're focusing a lot around at the moment. So there's a lot of times where we have the actual developer being there. I know for the next Thursday we're going to have developer of Pixel Galaxy coming in, and the game's not released until Friday. We're all playing before this and having the podcast released with the developer the day before the release of this game. So it's going to be really nice as well.
Someone you should consider getting on, get Pox. He plays more games than I do. That guy is in like a different game every day. Get him
we
on
should ask
me.
Pox as well. Thank you for allowing us to do the shout out. We appreciate it.
Of course, promotion's always good, especially when it's for a good thing, man.
Oh, by the way, Ziggy, Bonum asked me to tell you that Nightwayne in the Dried Lake, he has the skill you're looking for.
Yeah, I did say that. I'll have to have a closer look at it and see if that's exactly what I'm craving.
Okay.
Might not be quite enough.
All right.
Anyways, we're out, guys.
We can't use it anyway.
So now we just casually talk about things while we wait for delay. So, Ghazzy, I heard that you and the other night, you were at this bar with this woman.
No, Zeno, always.
I was what?
With the waddle waddles.
With the waddle what? What did I do now?
Oh, you're supposed to go with the flow, Ghazzy. We're making up shit. Let's try this again.
I was
dead
on the couch. I had butt juice in my channel this Friday, drinking shots and shots.
You had butt juice on Friday?
I have butt juice right now. I should do something about it.
You have butt juice too? What is butt juice?
I got more than butt juiced. Trust me, I hit the sub goal